Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tom. What's up, buddy?
Hello, friends.
Tom himself is an eater of tomes. That's well known. So,
Watch out.
Exactly.
Watch out.
You do read a lot of books, so there you go. That's what eating tomes is, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
Yeah, that's what it is. So, this week we're going to be breaking down Broken Realms Belakor. Don't worry, we won't talk spoilers or anything like that from the story until the very end, and we will clearly notate when that happens. We're going to spend a lot of time on all the rules and everything, and then we're going to try to do this all in one shot, so hopefully the show...
One shot. Eminem, don't let us down.
Okay, here we go. That's right. Imagine you only had one shot to talk about Broken Realms Belakor. Okay, so... here we go.
Because we have like another book coming out next week or something, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. 2 weeks until the next book, right? So anyways, but first off, of course, we've got a lot of news. News is happening. Things are happening.
Rumor engine.
Yeah, it's up.
It's a staff.
It's a staff of a Tzeentch thing. My guess.
Yes.
Everybody, it's just going to be like the staff of a 40k guy.
Yeah, like my vote is I think it's a Tzeentch thing. Sure. I don't know what that Tzeentch thing is, but I think
it is a 40k chaos sorcerer guy.
Yeah, that's probably going to happen.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
It just feels like we would all go, oh, of course, it's a cool AOS thing. Maybe more, Tzeentch mortal people. Nope. It'll be a 40k thing.
Yeah, and we're all going to be disappointed, and that's fine. But let's go. Let's hit the LRL rules.
Yeah.
For Warcry went up on the site. That's exciting.
They did. That is very exciting.
I mean, it's going to be really awkward with those pikes, like reaching all the way across the board, like halfway across the Warcry board.
Yeah, you're in your starting zone, and you can attack people in the midfield with them. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yep.
3-inch reach is pretty nice in Warcry. Yeah, really gets out there. No, I mean, I'm glad to see it. It was obviously like a lacking part of the range that you didn't have your LRL rules, right? And so the fact that I love when they do stuff like this. Warcry gets this a lot. Where they'll just like, hey, here's a bunch more content. Because I should mention, it has the LRL rules in it, which is obviously relevant. But it also has like a whole but more set of like narrative sort of campaign situation as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's always a good time to be a Warcry player, apparently. They're just like, look, we're just putting out stuff. You just get stuff.
I mean, you're going to make fun of me on this. When was the last time that they released the Warcry army cards?
Oh God, I don't know, man.
Are we a year out?
Well, I mean, they're all in the book. They're all in the books.
I understand that, but like last January. So like literally like we're probably 13 months out from the last actual release when we got like the Nurgle cards and stuff like that.
Well, I mean. No, because the Shadow Stonkers were in between there.
Were they? Yeah, that's true.
That's true. You're gonna forget about Shadow Stonkers, like.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about like independent factions and stuff like that.
Sure. I mean, you had multiple things come out after that. You have had multiple like. Hey, here's some free rules and cool stuff like that. I know we got White Dwarf articles. You've had the Shadow Stonkers and the Flamey guys.
I'm not critiquing the box.
Sure.
Right. Because like the box came out and we had like the Shadow Stalkers and the Flaming guys and all that this fall. I'm just more talking about the reality of like support for armies, like what you would expect, which is the LRL cards. Like the last time they released any cards that are like specifically for existing armies.
Yeah, I mean, you're very obsessed with cards in recent shows.
That's what I was like. You're gonna make fun of me clearly, but again, game aids are really important for me.
Yes, they decided to not do cards and to just put it all in a book, which is how they normally do it with this information.
I mean, it's just terrible. Like, we're playing a different game here. This is not AOS. This is Warcry.
Yes, that is a factually true statement. I don't disagree with that. You've seized it, Tom. This
I'm
is
on
the
it.
kind of cutting edge reporting people come
I've
to
cracked
this
the
show
case.
for. Breaking news! Warcry is in fact a different game than AOS. More in this story, more on this story as it develops.
I like my Warcry cards. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
I also like my army faction cards, but that's where we're at.
Well, you had a lot of friends who also like War Scroll cards, so there you go. It was a
amazing.
very popular comment.
Yes, thank you everybody for representing
20 to 30 people who commented that. So you're not alone in the world. You could fill a medium-sized Starbucks.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Okay, so LRL cards, but more importantly, we had the Flautist.
The Flautist, yeah, boy. Do 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 do. There he is. He's wiggling.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
I love this dude.
Do you? All right. Okay. Hit me.
Like, he's adorable.
Sure.
He is like interesting. There's a bunch of textures on him.
Sure. Yeah.
It answers some questions about the fate of Orion.
Okay. He became a bug.
No, Orion's skull is on this base.
Sure.
And we know how baby ambles are born.
Okay. Okay. I have many thoughts on this guy.
But can I add an additional two?
Yeah,
sorry.
Good.
Most importantly, it tells me we're getting Sylvaneth support and another Broken Realms book.
Sure.
Beyond what's his face?
Beyond Kragnos.
Yes, Beyond Kragnos. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple thoughts. I think everybody called Sylvaneth from the second we saw the silhouette on this guy, right? Because you could see the little soul pod amorphe things. So that checks out. That cloak is probably very dirty and very annoying. It must catch on everything. He's walking around in the middle of a bunch of spiky horns.
He's not walking anywhere. He's floating.
Yes, I understand that. At the moment, he's floating. My point is, if he better float all the time. Because if he ever touches down, like, that cloak is going to get snagged on all of that stuff. Look at all that stuff. That cloak is getting snagged. That's what I'm just saying.
You don't think that headpiece is getting snagged?
As well, we continue our journey into, like, ever excessive, insane headpieces. I mean, I can see why people love this guy.
They decided to unify the aesthetics to really give a touch of elven excess, right?
Sure.
With this guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird choice to have him floating and also stepping.
Yep.
Like, think about the mechanics of that. You can float, okay? Do you float like this?
Apparently,
that would be a very uncomfortable position to hold.
Well, I mean, Superman does, right? He's like, da, da, da,
no, Superman's legs go straight. That's literally what Superman does.
But not when he launches. When he launches, like, one knee goes up.
No, what are you talking? Anyways, we're not getting into this.
Don't make me screen share. I'll pull an image of Superman.
We're not getting into this. He's not launching.
And knee goes
He's either jumping, but he could probably. I'm sure this guy can fly.
Sure.
But at any rate, I hate the bugs. That's what it comes down to. If people like this guy,
you don't like the ambles?
No, I hate. I assume it's a little baby Wardroth beetle or something.
No, it's an amble.
Sure. I mean, it does look similar. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, like I do not. It's not. No, this isn't for me. But again, aesthetics are personal. I'm not judging him overall. Seems fine. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, like, boy, does that guy seem. He's too busy in my estimation. But sure.
I like all the textures, even if you don't.
I didn't say I don't like the textures. I don't have any problem with the textures. I like his little leafy cloak. I think it's actually pose and the thing around his back that I don't. That are the only elements I don't like. If we're gonna get to that. Like, he's got woody lower half and elfy upper half. I like that aesthetic. I like the mixed aesthetic. The leafy cloak looks good. I like the skull and the little vines growing. I just don't love this thing. But I could handle that thing if it wasn't full of bugs. I don't like insects. And I don't like insects growing on top of somebody else. It doesn't... The figure breaks my brain. That's the best way I can say it. Like, I look at him and I'm like, I don't know where to look on this thing or what's... He's very off-center.
I remember when we played a D&D game years ago, and I started doing these, like, face hugger, like, alien stuff, and
I was straight out of that. I was straight out of that. And you're like,
nope, I'm noping out of this.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't like bugs, man. Sorry. So, there we go.
I can tell.
Like, I have no problem with them existing in the world. I understand they're important to the ecosystem. Just exist over there. Like, where I'm not. And then we're fine. Right? So, that's all I'm asking of. Especially giant insects that hatch out of massive eggs.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Nope. Weird. Too weird. And I like weird. But this isn't my kind of weird.
You do. And I'm just like, yeah, more of this. Let's go alien species. Let's do this.
This is a great example of how aesthetics are so personal, right? Yeah, to me, it's just like there's the really, like, and Cujo said it, I think, well. I think, I agree with his comment. That, like, it's kind of hard to read what's happening. Like, there's a lot of different lines going in directions that are hard for me to read.
He's floating eerily.
But he's not. He's not. The gentlemen float eerily. He's action pose floating. He's action jumping. While seemingly, like, his cloak isn't billowed enough to represent that. His hair is lazily out, right?
Yes.
And like, we have lots of lines.
Like a ghostly, like a ghostly, weird, like, underwater style floating. I guess. Right? And as he plays his horn, his sideways weird horn.
Yeah, which is a bad line.
Right, which is a bad line. I don't disagree. It points like right at his jaw, which is a funny thing. He's summoning these things. He's making them hatch.
Yeah, sure. He's waking up his little bug, his head bugs. Yeah. At any rate, I don't love him.
His lice.
Yeah, he's waking up his head lice. Yes, exactly. All right, let's not just talk about this guy. But I'm happy for Sylvaneth to get a model, so that's cool.
I love the model. Like, this is one that I looked at and I'm like, yeah, I dig this guy.
Cool. I love that. I like aesthetics are so personal, you know. Sometimes you see a model and it hits, and sometimes it doesn't. It's hard to really know why, right? It's true. We can reverse explain it like I just did with my BS about lines, but really it's just like it's a sort of very boo yay personal sense of things, right? When you see stuff,
it is. And I am down. Okay. Make Sylvaneth weird.
Yeah, right on. Weirder, go weirder. Yes.
So we have been told that pre-orders are returning May 8th. It's Hive War for 40K. Yay.
Sure. But the important part is that's when they come back online. Probably with the thing they literally already have sitting in warehouses that's just like...
Right. They know will be available.
Yeah, it's already been distributed, basically.
Right. Yep. Right. And then the Warhammer Fest online next week, baby. So
yes, let's talk about this. Here, I've got a graphic. Yep. Okay, go.
Oh man, speculation.
Yes.
What are they going to talk about with AOS?
Well, I think on Monday they're going to talk about AOS. On Tuesday they're going to talk about Warhammer 40,000. On Wednesday, they'll probably talk. Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah, you're just literally reading the graphic. That's not what I'm talking about. What are they announcing on Monday?
Soulblight stuff. All the rest of the Soulblight stuff. Because that's this little symbol right here. This is the Soulblight symbol.
So then what are they announcing on Thursday? Which is the box games.
For boxed games? I don't know. I do not know. It's a good question. I mean, I know what they're announcing on Saturday.
And then what are they announcing on Saturday?
This thing right here, which is the Stormcast symbol, which is AOS 3.
Right.
Like, it was
a new chamber
3 years ago this weekend that I was sitting there in the Ryko Arena or whatever, when they announced AOS 2 and did the whole graphic about you can't solve all your problems by opening another chamber. And he says, the hell I can't, and then he slams the button. And obviously, we know AOS 3 is coming. Worst kept secret in the history of secrets, as we'll talk about in just a moment.
So it's time to crack a new chamber.
Yeah, it's time to crack a new chamber. It's time to AOS 3 it up. Let's get this going. Let's get out those Bretonnian Stormcast or whatever we've been talking about. A lot of stuff we'll talk about later in the narrative, I think, gives us some ideas of where Stormcast are going. And let's just get it announced. Like, 40K was also a May announcement, by the way.
Yep.
So, like Saturday the 8th of May is when they would announce this for an early July release.
Do you think we're going to get a box the value of the Indomitus box?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, 1,000% yes. The question you just asked is, are they going to be keen to print money? Yes. Do I think this will be...
The Indomitus box, though, was like a $450 value on models, wasn't it? Or something ridiculous?
It was crazy. And the answer is yes. We'll get a crazy launch box like that. Because they have to try to equal what they did last year with Ninth. That's how financial targets work. You don't get to go to your shareholders and be like, well, see, last year we launched our flagship games new edition, and that's a really, really popular game. It's our most popular product. This year we have a very popular secondary game, not quite as popular though. So, this box just won't sell as much. So we won't make as much money this year. So we hope that's okay with you shareholders. That's not how capitalism works. Okay? Infinite growth is what people expect. So, as a result, they have to just try to go
disappointed.
Yeah, they got to try to dig themselves out of this hole that they created by probably doing both this and a full on the Necromunda box coming out and probably a new Kill Team edition launch too this year. They'll probably try to do both. Maybe that's what they'll talk about on the box games things. I don't know. It might be a Kill Team thing. But anyways, they'll do they'll do AOS 3.0. And it'll be a big box, and it'll be a sexy box with some kind of Stormcast and some kind of destruction. There you go. So,
the future.
Plastic is more expensive right now. Just this weird thing is happening where, yes, plastic is getting a lot more expensive. But that being said, I'm sure they'll take this as low as they can. It might be a little bit more than the Indominus box was. I could see them up pricing at $10 or $20 or something, more than Indominus
was. The Indominus was like $220 or something, wasn't it?
That was like $200, I think. But, my point is I could see a small creep for them trying to... This would have been printed back when they were still paying normal price for plastic, right? All this stuff's already printed and boxed, right?
Yep.
So, these boxes exist. They're in a warehouse in Nottingham right now, or in other places. So
or on
various shipping things going to other continents. Yes.
Right. Well, I'm excited.
When you look at the symbols, it's pretty straightforward. It's okay, Sisters of Battle, new Stormcast thing for AOS 3, right? The Necromunda thing, the Orc Beast Nagas that we'll learn all about for 40K, and the Blood Dragons. So, yep,
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm
kind of excited. I'm honestly a little bit excited for whatever day they do those new Beast Naga orcs, because I want to see if there's anything else I can steal for Ironjaws. That's all I'm watching that day for. It's gonna be what can I harvest here for Ironjaws? So
that'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be fun. And speaking of AOS 3, let's talk about those AOS 3 leaks.
Big story this week. That is some breaking news. We've got the List Labs that we recommended a couple weeks back. Our pal Smorgan. Good man. Gotta have him on the show sometime.
That'd be great.
I don't know how we haven't done that yet. Smorgan's an awesome dude. And he broke a story wide open. talking about he's seen the AOS 3 core rules, and here are some of his things that he wants to share. And he was very clear in the video that there is more beyond this. This isn't the whole story, but according to him, these are the changes. So you want to talk these through real fast?
Sure. The first being that there will be a new set of seemingly allegiance, or not allegiance abilities, command abilities that will be charged reactions.
Yep.
They will be one that basically lets you like flee D6 inches, I think. One that lets you like set for charge and gives you +1 to save. Yep. And one that lets you basically stand and shoot. So -1 to hit, but you get to shoot all your guns.
Yes. And these are only declarable. The other thing that was mentioned was they're only declarable if the charger is within like a certain range of you or something.
Yeah, there's some limitation, we know.
Yeah, there's some limitation. Like if somebody, I think the limitation that they mentioned was if it's like a long bomb charge. Like if somebody comes in from 9 inches away, you don't get to declare because like you didn't you didn't expect to be charged by them because they were too far away or something like that. Something like that.
Nighthaunt. Womp womp womp.
Sure. Still playing that slot.
Yep. Where'd my there it goes. Modifiers, hit, wound, and save.
Hold on, we gotta evaluate these a little more. Tom. If this is true, do you like this concept? Again, we're evaluating based on what we currently know. So our opinions could change, could be subject to change when you learn more, of course. But right now, what do you think about it?
I'm not ready to evaluate this without talking about the other pieces.
Okay, we'll do all of them and then we'll do an evaluation. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's do all of them. And the reason why is because like this wouldn't necessarily be bad if we weren't hitting the refresh button on all of our command points every turn.
Sure.
And it's I'm gonna hit all the changes.
Let's just do the list.
Yeah. Okay. So modifiers to hit, wound, and save bonuses are going to be capped at 1, ±1.
Yep.
So no more hit stacking, and no more save stacking, and no more wound stacking or debuffs.
Yep.
I'm glad we're here.
I agree. Took us 5 years, but this thing that we said should have happened a long time ago. I agree.
I was like half tempted to like. I'm not going to say that.
Sure.
All I'll say is that this was some of the feedback that I offered GW a long time ago in a formal letter.
In 2017, yes.
It was before that. It would have been
right after the first GHB in 2016. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, yes. It was January 2017. Yes,
yep.
It would have been right after that. And we're there. So I'm thankful. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm glad that we've all come around to the same kind of design vision.
Right. This modifier, as far as we know right now, we know it applies to hits, wounds, and saves. We don't know if it applies to anything else.
Right.
So, like somebody asked, is bravery stacking still going to be bravery bombing still going to be a thing? Who knows? I don't know. We don't know what else it affects. It feels to me like those would be the 3 you would hit if I was writing this rule.
Right. That's what I would be most concerned about. I would not be surprised if it applies to everything else.
I mean, there's certain things you just can't apply it to, like move, for example. That doesn't make any sense in terms of move, right? Because you have too many things that like half move or do play with weird fractions and stuff like that. But sure, I'm just saying, like, if I had to pick the 3 things I wanted it to apply to, these would be the 3.
Yeah, I hadn't actually considered that on move because that really hurts my KO build.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just not going to apply to move. There's just no world where this +1/-1 applies to move. It just doesn't. They didn't write Lumineth and write a bunch of extra movement crap to then, like, invalidate that 8 seconds later, I would think. But we'll talk about something else they're writing that they're going to invalidate here in a few seconds.
Right. Yep. So command points apparently are going to basically refresh at the top of the battle round and go away at the bottom of the round. So burn them if you got them. Style command points where you're going to want to spend all of them, not unlike how OBRs, DPR, or whatever they're called, refresh.
Mm-hmm.
The
RDP, but yes.
RDP, there it is. I don't know. I don't play that faction. I have their war scroll cards though.
Yeah. So to restate what you just said, you gain your command points at the beginning of the battle round, meaning like you can't. Like obviously the concern right now is you get alpha to the top of 1. You have no. If you don't have any command points, then you can't battle shock immune people or whatever. Right, that kind of stuff.
Right. But
that
you
wouldn't
get
be
them.
true. You
Right.
would have command points. Right?
You would have command points, right?
Right.
And it raises all kinds of questions of like, how do you get extra command points? What do you like? Will battalions still grant command points? So there's a bunch of other things that will need to be answered.
Sure.
Can you
Absolutely.
buy extra command points? Relatedly, and I would argue probably the most severe news to come out is that battalions are gone from match play and are being replaced by general battalions.
Right.
Meaning that there will be a handful of generic battalions that'll be like 3 battle line units and 1 hero.
Or something like
or
that.
1 monster and 2 other units or whatever.
Sure.
And those will be the only battalions that will be legal in matched play.
Yes.
And then
this is the go ahead. We're not commenting yet.
And then turn 3 objective removal. So in new scenarios, apparently, whoever wins turn 3, whoever's on the bottom of that turn at the start of turn 3, they get to remove an objective off of the battlefield. Mm-hmm. And all new scenarios have been written for a smaller board, and so the board size itself will be a lot smaller. And then baked into the system, there will be primary and secondary objectives.
Yes. Yep.
So, reactions.
Okay, let's break this down. Here we go. Lots of questions rolling in. First off, I'll link the video down in the description for Smorgan so you can go watch his longer video where he talks through all of it. I think he'll do another video on it, I'm sure, in the future as he continues breaking news.
Xena, as far as we know, these are real changes.
Yeah, I mean...
And Smorgan had his eyes on the book, he said.
So he says, I tend to believe Smorgan. He's a pretty well-known, well-respected person. Like, I've met the guy personally. He's not the type of person who would make a video like this of junk. So I tend to believe him. Okay?
Correct.
You know, like, he's just not that type of person. Okay?
Right.
Now...
The
who knows?
Character of the
At the same time,
character.
maybe he's pulling like some why can't I think of his name? Man on the Moon. Jim Carrey documentary guy. Crap. Doesn't matter. He's a comedian. Somebody will say it in the comments, and I can't remember it, but he's a very funny comedian who did lots of pranks. Maybe he's gone full that. At any rate.
Okay.
We're going to assume this is real. Reactions. I love all of it, assuming that the other things around it are built correctly to support it.
Yeah, I think that's a good word. My initial concerns when I read the list was that in lieu of severe, like a severe updating of a lot of war scrolls, there's going to be a lot of winners and losers here. Sure. Like there's going to be some hard swings in the meta, is what I'm saying on the other side of this.
Yeah, sure.
For example, like City's going to be a huge winner in this new world.
Well, again, seemingly from information presented here, there could be other things that swing this back around in one direction or another. Yes. Agreed.
For me, I think the biggest gut punch was the loss of battalions.
Yeah.
Because, and this gets to a design problem, arguably a problem, that there are some factions right now that crutch onto battalions. Mm-hmm. Like the entire battalion carries the faction, and without that battalion, like the faction loses real core capabilities. Yeah. And that really concerns me for a lot of those factions, because it could still be another 2 years before they get a book.
So, by the way, I do want to shout out Grimdark Live. Hey, what's up, Grimdark? This does align with a lot of stuff Grimdark said when they broke the same pieces of information back in March. Thank you. Absolutely, Grimdark. I meant to shout that out at the top and didn't, so I'm very sorry, Grimdark.
Yes. This aligns with, they are clearly consonant with the other rumors that we heard from Grimdark. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And I would argue other things that I've heard from elsewhere.
Yes. And I will, as I said, I'll link the video down in the description.
Yeah.
So here's my thoughts on the battalion thing.
Yeah.
I agree with you. This is the one that feels the most like we've said many, many times in the history of this show. all design choices carry good and bad consequences.
Yes.
Right? And it's, if you want to search for the video, it's AOS List Labs. That's the name of the YouTube channel. At any rate, the bad of this is pretty prima facie obvious. We've come to see these battalions as a part of our army construction creation process for some armies.
Right.
Right?
Right. Like, I never make a Nighthaunt list without Death Riders. Ever.
Sure. And I mean, I'm sure
Ever.
each of us could tell similar stories about some armies, right? So, like, for example, I've never written an Ironjawz army without a battalion, right?
Right.
Whereas in other armies, that might not be the case at all.
Right.
Like, I've written about a bajillion Skaven lists without a battalion.
Right.
Or like, my cities lists don't have battalions. Or whatever, right? You can pick.
Right.
Some have battalions they include, some have battalions they never include, some have battalions that they sometimes use. Like, it runs the gamut here. Yeah?
Sure. Certainly.
We're still on News Aid. My general feeling is, yes, that sucks to lose things. The only one that really hurts is the BOC God-marked battalions. So, like, please find some way to replace that engine, which it's okay. Like, there could be new ways to do that, right? They could put out a new BOC book. They should do that anyways. And it could have sub-factions that are God-marked sub-factions, right? That's how we could do it. Like, we can just use that existing engine. So you could have, like, all her Darkwalkers, etc., and then you could just have Khorne sub-factions, so on. In the same way, by the way, remember how Stormcast chambers used to be battalions? Right?
Right.
Like, if you wanted to be Hollowed Knights, you took this big, crazy, ridiculous battalion and got a bonus, and then it became a sub-faction in AOS 2, right? Like, we can do that same thing here with those critical ones, if there's really critical concepts.
What's happened. Arguably, that's what's happened in Nighthaunt, and we'll get to this when we review the sub-factions. Like, the first thing that struck me when I reviewed the Nighthaunt rules changes is that, like, literally, they were the battalions I was running.
Yeah.
Like, with the exception of Death Riders.
Sure.
Like, I was like, oh, I don't have to invest anymore into these battalions because I'm getting these for my sub-faction. Well, they're doing that because they're doing away with the allegiance.
Yeah, so it's easy to focus on what you're losing here, but there aren't that many battalions that are really, like, that flavorful and, like, chocked full of doing something really neat, like the BOC God-marked Beasts battalions. Those are so special and standalone. I'm not saying there's no others. I'm not. I'm saying that there aren't many others. A lot of battalions are just, like, bullet trains to better rules. Like, honestly. Okay? And so there's no reason those couldn't be brought in somewhere else. But here's the trick. Battalions are so iniquitous right now.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
And I think that leads to a lot of other problems, like the drop challenge, right? Like, some books can achieve 1 drop very easy. Some are, like, at 12 drops if they're lucky, right? And this just makes for this very uneven playing ground. Some armies can just take battalions that supercharge their units, and some books just don't have that capability. Like, we talked about this when we did the Best Battalion show, right? Like, it is no secret that these are really unevenly distributed, right?
Yep.
So, assuming you do the proper, like, assuming you save the right pieces of this through, like, new books and moving things to sub-factions or whatever, right? Putting them in Broken Realms. I don't care. Like, whatever you do, just save the really important parts. The upside of this, to me, is that everybody will be on the same footing. Like, there's a set of general battalions. We all get to use them. And you're just making a choice as part of building your army as to how you want to build your army. Right? And then, so, like, do you want to be low drops or high drops? If it still touches drops, which I don't know if it does or not. That wasn't part of this, right? But the point is, it will, like, do you want the bonus or do you not? Like, there'll be a logical choice we're all making, as opposed to, like, the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, I think about things like in the aggregate, I look at these rules changes, and I think about things like Fyreslayers. Like, this is already, like, on one hand, this has been one of those armies that have been egregious to play against. On the other hand...
Which it is. Like, that battalion can, like, die in a fire. Really. It's the worst.
I hear your concern. But what it actually did more than murder things, because those guys were going to murder things most of the time on one activation anyways.
Sure.
The issue is it actually gave them more movement, because that army is like devoid of movement options.
Right.
And hold on. And then when that gets combined with the new rules of removing objectives, like, so pulling, like, if you're already an army that's based on bodies and holding like super defensive, super like non-mobile army, and you certainly start yanking objectives out from underneath those units, like that army is no longer competitively playable at all.
Yeah. So my answer is obviously we can't judge something like that.
We don't know the full rules. We don't know the full extent of it. But I have real concerns about the secondary and tertiary consequences of changes like this in the aggregate. It's not, again, they're not messing with one core rule, right? It's a bunch of core rules, a lot of them that are all touching one another, and that really concerns me.
I get that, and I think it's a valid concern. This is the most sensitive one it is. I think all the rest of these are pretty non-controversial, honestly. Like the command points at the beginning of the turn and going away is honestly like much better design than getting them during the hero phase.
And by the way, you know the only person that hits the stacking bonuses to save, and who that still hits?
Oh, the stacking bonuses to save? Fyreslayers.
Mm-hmm. Fyreslayers. Yeah, sure, it's the only ones that hit.
Again.
Right. And so but in lieu of actually getting like usable units, more than 2 core units, non-hero units.
Like, again, I don't want to talk, like, there will be winners and losers. There will be some people to go up. There will be some people to go down. I'm not going to, really try to take too much of a guess at that right now, because we don't know enough to say, right? I agree. We got like 6 pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle.
I agree. My frustration is simply that, like, that community, for example, was already one that was hanging on by a thread. There were not
7 people that play that army will be really hurt by this. Yeah.
Sure. Like, but again, it's an army that I love and that I have.
Yeah, I understand.
And so, like, it's a community that I'm a part of, and I see a lot of folks very anxious, in that community.
Yeah.
So I'm wanting to give voice to that anxiousness.
Which I totally understand and appreciate. My general feeling is that that overall all the rest of those changes are pretty non-controversial and bode really well. The lack of stacking, as you said, you've been wanting that for years. The command point thing, very positive. I don't actually think the scenario thing will work exactly like Smorgan said it. You know what I mean? Like, my guess is there'll be exemptions in scenarios in the same way that if I were to describe to you how objective taking worked, that isn't true for every scenario. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because they'll still want to have room for stuff like knife to the heart or something where there's only some kind of a knife to the heart where there's only like 2 objectives. You can't remove one of those, right?
You don't get yours.
It's like, no, neither of us can win. It's like, okay. So obviously, like, that'll change, So there'll be exemptions. Yep. Top of 3. If you take both, which is impossible because one has been removed, you win.
As someone pointed out in the comments, how hilarious is it to me that they're selling boxes based on battalions right now?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, that's the funniest part of it, right? Yeah. That all these new battalions have like an 8-second lifespan. Yeah, they are the
I was so excited about this KO battalion. I was like, finally.
Sure.
A non-ship based battalion. Mm-hmm. We've arrived. Womp womp womp.
Well, on the bright side, you'll have a non-ship based battalion in the generic battalions as well. So there you go. At any rate, yeah. So I'm okay. Broader point. Oftentimes, to achieve equality, you sometimes need to knock down those who have an abundance. And so in this case, but often at the same time when you do such things, there are vast unintended consequences.
Right.
Both of these things are true. So, at any rate, my hope with the movement of battalions is that at the least we have more building tools for everybody. Right.
What let me observe over the last month or so, one of the things that we've highly critiqued is that there were too many layers to this cake.
Yep.
Like we're like, we have allegiance abilities and generic army abilities and
sub-factions, battalions, the whole deal. Yeah, type rules. Yeah.
And they're like, and just killing an entire layer.
Yeah, it's great.
To their credit,
even footing the whole thing. Which is the correct move.
Right. Which to their credit, like it is one way to deal with it, is just to kill an entire layer.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that was like one of the most flavorful layers that really like gave identity to some armies.
Sure.
And and here we are.
Hey, there you go. I look forward to Slaanesh no longer having 6-inch pylons. Because I hate trying to win with that cheater rule anyways, but I'm gonna play it a bunch before it goes. Okay. And also, yes, Sons of Behemoth could get battalions. Let's celebrate, folks. Back to Giants. Let's go. They're right there. They're ready to rock with battalions. Oh, it's happy days. It's gonna be a great world to live in. I can't wait. Anyways.
Yeah, I was cycling through like all of the pot. Like, okay, what is this faction going to gain? What is that faction going to gain? And by these hypotheticals, and it's so funny because some of them are just so disproportionately good and so disproportionately bad.
Sure, I'm sure as we get closer and learn more, we'll see the we'll have much more deep dives on this. But let's keep
moving. And we're gonna encourage people not to jump to any conclusions.
Oh, that is an excellent point. Like it's gonna be really easy as we see little bits here and there to be like, I'm so angry, and then think back and remember. The changes into AOS 2, a lot of people felt the same things, but overall, it was a vast improvement. Now, it took a little bit of proud nailing right at the beginning. We had to go, oh, no, wait, we can't stack those command points and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was...
You can't cast all your endless spells.
Yeah, for the most part, it was a vast improvement. It took them a couple extra weeks to dial it in. But, like, AOS 2 is unabashedly better than AOS 1.
Well, I'll say this: NashCon's going to be the Wild Wild West.
Oh boy, I can't wait. Yeah, I mean the fact that like here's why you should remain optimistic, because I'm watching people from across the sphere who are reading this stuff and they're like, all right, I'm optimistic. Like if Smorgan is optimistic and Rob is optimistic, if Honest Wargamer Rob is like, I don't know, I'm pretty optimistic. Seems like some good changes to me. Like if he's optimistic, you should be optimistic because he calls it like he sees it every time, right? So there you go. All right. Any other new stuff? I think that's it, right?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, cool. Let's do some pick of the week. All right. Tom, what would you like to share with everybody?
I think I shared this last week, but I'm just going to double down this week because we're covering Belakor.
Yep.
And we're going to cover the narrative in like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you want to spend 4 hours on that, go watch Doug's videos.
Yep. Yeah, 2+ stuff does such his video series on Belakor is so good.
Yeah. And that way you can take the 5 minutes of conversation that you get here and actually get it largely fleshed out over there. Mm-hmm. So Doug's just been like, I love that he does these lore videos for these series so that I don't have to worry about it. It's great.
Like, it's good. That like, it's still... And what I love about it is he leaves just the right amount of stuff off the table. Because if you go and read, there's still other little stories and things he's not telling you that aren't, like, cogent to the overall plot, but still interesting. The man's a genius at this sort of thing. Okay. Fantastic. Great stuff. For myself, my shout-out is going to be to a Cult of Paint video. Cult of Paint is running an online miniature painting competition here soon. Yep. And that's fine. You can go check that out. You can link to that information through the video I'm going to give you, but the video I'm going to give you is not about that. The video that I'm going to link you to is a like 7-minute video or something about taking pictures of your miniatures with either a DSLR camera or your phone. And he goes through...
I would love to watch that video.
It's great. This is from... I'm blanking on his name. Oh gosh, my brain is fried today. I'm sorry, everybody. At any rate, it is from the person who's putting together the Golden Demon Compendium book. That's part of the Cult of Paint. He had to take pictures of all these beautiful miniatures because he rephotographed a lot of these Golden Demon winners for the book, and he's fantastic at taking photos. If you've looked at the stuff, I mean, he's absolutely great with it. So he's sharing his experience at taking the pictures with you. So
Yeah.
Go watch it. It's short, and then hopefully I don't have to look at bad pictures on the internet anymore of people taking bad pictures of their miniatures. So there you go. This video will help you out, whether you're using a nice camera, I shouldn't say nice, whether you're using like a DSLR or whether you're using your iPhone. So there you go. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's talk about some hobby time, Tom. I am going to guess that for the rest of, for the next, I want to say 2-ish months, Tom will have nothing during hobby time. What have you been working on, Tom?
Sword and Magic.
Mm-hmm, sure. See,
I mean, yeah, you're right. Because Vince, this is the cycle.
Yep.
Is when I get to an edition change, I go into paralysis mode.
Yeah, when Tom feels any kind of change coming, of any kind, he can't work, which is completely counter positive to actually then, and then he has to hustle later. Whereas he could just paint stuff and then have it in case, because you can't get this time back.
Right, it's wasted time if it's not what I need painted.
Yeah, but see, it's not, because
it is,
the next time around you might need that thing. You're going to have that thing painted for your whole life.
But it could also likewise be I never play that model again because it's trash in the new edition.
Until the 4th edition, or the 5th, or the 6th.
Right.
I played Warhammer
or that army, or they retire that army, because they do that now too.
Like, again, whatever. We've had this argument. You're just flat out wrong. Like statistically, you're wrong, but that's okay.
And so I invested in things that I know that the time will be not wasted. That I will not regret spending my time in that way.
Sure. Yes, the long duration of Magic cards, absolutely. Okay.
But I mean, let's be honest. I may still end up working on a model or two.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, you know what you need to get paint for that KO. Don't pretend like KO aren't going to be good, because they're like a shooting army that's just always going to be good. Don't pretend like that.
And they can now stand and shoot.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying. Don't pretend like you don't want to live in that world. You're not going to be taking KO to NashCon. Just don't pretend like you're not going to get in the car with me, Tom, and put your KO crap in the car.
I mean, no, I am going to take my KO, because I know I'm not going to do Nighthaunt, because Hex Race are so bad without a battalion.
Well, there we go. I agree with creative name to stand out. Right on, Will. Okay. For myself, quite the opposite. It's been an overwhelmingly busy hobby week. So I've been continuing to work through the Cursed City stuff. I painted up a little Zomboy for a tutorial about quick painting zombies that'll come out quite a while in the future. I kit bashed together. Well, he's not in like reach, so I apologize. But I kit bashed together my Smash Bat and some Crypt Flayers out of the Oh, it's fine. Smash Bat doesn't need that battalion. I'll be liberated from it.
You kind of do need that battalion for that double move, but I understand what you're saying.
Nah. It's about... Smash Bat was never about... The extra move, that was sprinkles on Smash Bats. Delicious ice cream, okay?
Well, now mobility is really important, especially with stand and shoot.
Smaller boards. It's cool. We're good. You can still get run in charge in the sub faction. So at any rate, the point of Smash Bat was to go attack something and do like 8 million damage, which Smash Bat still does. That's all I care about, Tom.
Unless he dies in the charge phase to run a stand and shoot.
Well, maybe don't charge that thing. So, anyways, converting him up, I've got him all fixed. I have ridiculous wings on top of the that guy. And so I did that in the Crypt Flayers. I got the rest of them in that I need for that, or almost. I'm just waiting on 2 more. And then Richard Gray put up a really nice video about... He did a little skeleton from the Cursed City, and he did it in like a really fun, rough way in sort of non-metallic. And I was kind of fascinated by watching him work. Like, Richard Gray's an amazingly great painter. And so I thought, what if I did that with all of my skeletons? What if I did like 10 skeletons, sort of like he's doing, and just did them all in non-metallics, and just kind of went one skeleton at a time, established like a nice simple scheme that I can work with and have some fun with. and not really worry about it being too over the top or high quality. Just playing around with like learning a thing. And I think I'm going to make a video out of this for something future. But it's been really fun. So I'm like 8 skeletons in or something like that out of the 10. Just slowly working my way through them. So yeah, there they are, little skeleton boys. And these guys are really fun to paint. They're nice. They're not too complicated, Tom. They're beautifully simple, these skeletons. That's what I'll say. And I love it. And then I've got big baby Belakor back there. He's sitting right there. And I'm going to do some conversions on him. Because he's going to be joining my Slaanesh force. So, there you go. So we're gonna but he's got to get in costume first if he's going to join Slaanesh. Much as his foe, their Archaeon, has been turned into Archaeel, such too will this guy be ready. So there you go. Cool. All right. So with that, Tom, let's talk about Broken Realms Belakor, shall we? And you can stop explaining to people in the comments about this thing that you're explaining. So I could just see you completely zone out of what I'm saying, and you're completely now focused on having an argument about Nighthaunt.
I don't care about Smashbat.
Yeah.
Continue.
I didn't talk about Smashbat there for like the last 3 minutes. I did talk too long, but I'll give you that.
Shows you how much I was paying attention.
I know it was 0. I know what your face looks like when you're not paying attention. I've known you for 26 years. Okay. Anyways, let's talk about Belakor.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. So
Belakor.
Yeah.
Some exciting rules in it.
There is. Uh-oh. Did I lose Tom? Did he freeze? Everybody else is still working. Okay, well, I'll talk for a minute. We'll see if Tom comes back. Yeah? It looks like I'm still good. Okay. Yep. All right. Hopefully everybody else tell me you can still hear me. Oh, wait. Hold on. Do we have Tom back?
Hey.
All right. You're back.
I
Okay.
am.
Yeah, I was here the whole time. It's just you froze for a second. I don't know what happened there. Weird. All right. You're fine now, right?
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about Belakor. So, let's do overview. Inequitably distributed updates for armies. More even than Techless, maybe, was my answer here.
Yeah. I can see that.
What's your overall take here?
I mean, I think I liked everything that happened.
Okay.
I could care less about the Belakor thing, but I liked everything else.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to know what's so funny?
What's that?
I forgot to write KO in the small changes list. That's how I forgot to even mention it. And it is probably worth mentioning.
Like, it's one of the more significant changes because it made them, like, even better. Like, no cost better, right?
Sure.
Like, that's the key. Is that, like, it was the type of change that just was like, hey, that thing you already do real well? Cool, do it better.
Sure.
Or rather, that one restriction that you have about, like, not being able to, like, use your buff on people in the ship and all that, yeah, ignore that for a turn.
Sure. It's funny because I wrote this like 2 days ago, went through it yesterday, went through it today, read this page, 3 times.
Yeah.
Didn't see
you
that
don't
until
wrong
right
with
now.
it. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
My answer is I like this book. Both story and the rules. I liked it.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I wish some stuff was a little different. But we'll get into that when I get into the individual things. Like there's some things I wish were slightly different. That's what I'll say.
Like Fyreslayers. Come on now. Like, it doesn't matter what you do to them. We're not running those stupid models.
Well, we'll get there, my friend. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Okay. Let's do it. Here we go. Rules-wise, here's my first supposition for my overview. Rules-wise, this book is called Broken Realms Nighthaunt. I don't know what else this book is about, but it might as well be called Broken Realms Nighthaunt. Agree or disagree, Tom?
I mean, it is faction redefining for Nighthaunt. This is as significant, if arguably more significant, than the Legion of Grief.
Yeah. Nighthaunt in this book are Alec Baldwin showing up, okay, and giving a talk about sales for like 5 minutes and winning an Oscar. That's Nighthaunt, right? It's the only scene that matters in the book. Nighthaunt are for closers, okay? Like, everything else is just whatever. So, but yeah, the Ghosty Boys got some good stuff here. And like, you could have called it Broken Realms, Belakor, also starring, and more importantly, Nighthaunt. Ghosts are in this book.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because on one hand, like, the Reichnor subfaction is like bonkers good. Like, giving Nighthaunt a second general to trigger their ability off of, rolling the condemned abilities into the base book, or the base like faction, so that you don't have to actually spend points on that battalion. Like, all that's just golden.
Yep. So
it's really good.
It is. Let's get into exactly how gold. But first, we got to go through the small changes. We're going in reverse order. Okay.
Yep.
So we start with the smalls. We build to the big story. Okay.
Yep.
So you have your opening act. So let's start with the opening acts. By the way, if you like Nighthaunt and Ghosty Boys, hey, why don't you give this show a like as well? Hitting like helps other people find the show, and we really appreciate it. And it's so easy. You're watching right now. Just click the button. Okay, so let's start with Disciples of Tzeentch, a faction that very few people like, or at least as it's currently run in tournament play. I love Tzeentch. I just don't like this Tzeentch that's very good, apparently. But that's fine. Okay, so
well, the biggest offense, Change Host, is probably going to be gone. So
which I'm happy about. So, which that is going to hang like a cloud over so many discussions we're about to have, right? Yeah. The concept that in AOS 3 all these battalions go away needs to always be somewhere in the back of your mind as we're evaluating this stuff. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, Disciples of Tzeentch got a new battalion. That new battalion is a Fate Skimmer, Herald on Burning Chariot, who becomes a named character. 1 to 3 Horrors of Tzeentch with 30 models max. And then you get +1 melee attacks on the charge, and you cannot use the Reckless Abandon agenda. The Herald knows Tzeentch is Firestorm and gets +2 to cast. Most importantly, in bold here, I have written, this is not Change Host, and so who cares?
Well, not only that, like, again, it's not going to be usable in a couple months.
Sure, but again, I want to evaluate these things as they are now. We're gonna take that comment of battalions are likely going away. We're gonna put that over here. That's over here now. Sure. Okay, we're talking in the current world where this is. The reality is this thing is just not Change Host. So, like, but I do not in my brain, Tom, understand how the same studio writes rules like this that says 30 models max in the 1 to 3 Horrors unit, because they know it would be busted if you could just take like big giant packs, right, or something like that, and just pack tons of wounds in here or something. Or maybe it's not busted, maybe it's not even bent, but they are afraid it would be, right? I'm recalled back to like Misthaven or whatever, when it's like, oh, you can ambush, but 10 models max, and I'm like, why? We're Corsairs? That's scary if they came in a pack of 30? Was this a problem? Right? Mm-hmm. So how do we get this with this like very hard limitation, and also often have and also just have Change Host sitting out there like, take your whole army, 1 drop, go nuts.
And then teleport.
And then just teleport. Like, it makes my brain hurt, Tom. And this is why, honestly, I'm not going to be too sad if these things shuffle off into narrative play. Right. Okay?
Yep.
Because I just, like, we've had 6 years of saying, can we get these things on a more even keel? And the answer is no. Like, sometimes you just gotta throw in the towel. And this is a good way to do it. So, anyways, yeah, that's Disciples. It's whatever. If you like bubblegum monsters, this is the bubblegum monster battalion for you.
If you like bubblegum monsters and don't like change hosts,
right,
this is battalion for you.
Sure. Yep. You can take all of these units in change host and get better abilities. Yes.
And get +1 to melee attacks.
Well, no, I'm saying in change host you could get all these same abilities. Yes.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Or all these same units. Sorry. Okay. Cool. That thus endeth the Disciples of Tzeentch. Hold on, let me timestamp that one. Okay. All right, so Seraphon. Okay.
Go on.
So Seraphon get 1 new battalion, as well as I shouldn't have said each. It shouldn't say each faction. I'm sorry about that. But they get the 4 new bound spells and 1 new battalion. Sorry, that's what that is.
You know what they needed more of?
Bound spells.
Yep.
I'm gonna make a guess right now, Tom. You ready?
Hit me.
All that stuff goes in the trash. I'm gonna guess that's gone too. Because here's the thing, I don't think they'll rewrite like all the war scrolls. Like that's not gonna happen. Like you and I were talking about that. But I think it would be pretty easy. Like they ended the Necroquake. That was one of the things that came out of the previous story.
Yep.
I think they're gonna like that. To me, signals, hey, we're gonna rewrite endless spells.
Do you think that they will just kill endless spells outright?
No.
Because so we're moving into a world though where like we could have we're not going to be in the Soul Wars anymore. So like those boxes with endless spells like malign sorcery,
it's easy to re-put those sprues into a new box and resell them with the new rules.
Okay. Why
cut something when you can just take those sprues, repackage them with the new rule set? Because that's not that many things to rewrite. It's really not.
Sure.
Right? So that's a wild guess. I have no information about that. I don't know that's happening. That's just me looking at the writing on the wall.
That we may move away from predatory endless spells and have endless spells just in general be more controlled.
Yeah. Yep.
I could see that.
Yep.
Like predatory was for the season when all the magic was haywire.
Yep.
Okay, I can see that.
Yep. So anyways, so bound spells will just get put in a bin or something like that, or be different. Who knows? Anyways, yeah. So okay, you got your bound spells. You got bound you got bound lunchbox, the Soul Seeker. He becomes not predatory and goes up 10 points. You've got the bound Horrorghast, literally no changes. It's just bound. You have the bound Shards of Valagar, which only the Seraphon caster ever can move a shard. Remember, Shards of Valagar is the weird one because it doesn't rely on turn priority.
Yeah, you
dice off to see who gets to move one of the shards to swing it around the other one, right, as they swing around each other. Only the Seraphon caster gets to ever move it. Same price, by the way. Doesn't go up in points. So that's nice.
Crazy.
And then the bound Soul Scream Bridge, which is plus 10 points for 110 for reasons I cannot understand. So there you go. Yeah, and then it's fine. I don't think any of these. Maybe you could see the shards somewhere because they're at the same price and they're not that expensive. That could be the one, I suppose.
Sure, I can see that.
Like they're interesting and they can do significant movement-based tricks. And Seraphon generally wants to slow you down and hold through anytime they can screw with you, they're good, right? Like I think shards, if out of this list, shards is the one you would see bound because it removes all risk of the random dice going against you. You always get to control it, and so there you go. Hamza says, "What does bound mean?" This is a Seraphon trick. They can cast the spell. It gains this bound keyword. Bound. It means this is basically Kanye West's magic. And what it means is that the downsides go away is the effective answer.
Like normally with predatory things, like whoever has turn priority, the other person would get to move endless spells. With bound stuff, no one gets to touch your endless spells.
Yeah, they're yours.
You are the only one that moves them.
You play with your toys.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I could see the shards because they're still like I said, they don't go up in cost and they are a good movement trick. And Seraphon generally want to slow you up and trip you down so they can just bomb you and stuff like that and shoot blowpipes at you.
Yep, it's true.
Okay. The new battalion is a Stegadon, Skink Chief, who becomes a named character, an Engine of the Gods or a Stegodon, and a Bastiliodon. It has to be in Thunder Lizards, so it is a Thunder Lizard battalion, which is the best sub-faction,
Nice.
so I stand behind that.
Yep.
The Star Warden has the Prime Warbeast command trait, even if not the General, which is cool, actually.
Yeah. I love them like tweaking things like that. Too bad that'll never ever happen again.
Sure. That's actually a neat ability. And its other ability is it lets you shoot kind of this little combined laser blast where you roll a bunch of dice, and if all 3 dice come up at 2+, you do like 3d3 mortal wounds. So
yeah,
it's cool. 140 points. Okay. For the pseudo stars of this show, by the way, what I mean by that is like Seraphon are really, really, really heavily in this book. Right?
Right. Like if for reading like the first quarter of the narrative, you wouldn't be surprised to think, why isn't this battle tome like Mazamundi or whatever?
Croak, yes, Lord Croak, yes.
Croak, yeah. I don't know.
Because Mazamundi's dead. Yes.
Well, guess what? So's Croak.
It's also a good point. You got me on that one. Okay. So, yes, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's so Seraphon focused for a lot of this book, right? But yeah, that's fine. They didn't need anything. Seraphon are overall, the only thing Seraphon need right now is a significant price hike almost across the board. So there you go.
It reminds me of the Battle Tome, or I'm sorry, the End Times Thanquol, where like most of the book was just Seraphon.
Right, sure. Yep. But then we threw the moon at him, so take that. All right, let's talk Fyreslayers. All right. New Doomseeker and a new Grimwrath Berserker War Scroll. Let's talk about the Doomseeker first. +1 to wound with his off weapon. It's now 3s and 3s.
Yep.
His throwing axe is on 4s and 4s, so look out for that. He can now fight on death if near his oath target, in addition to the pile in twice if he's only fought once. So he can do one or the other. And he went down 10 points. Okay.
Nope. Still not fielding him.
Okay. All right. I don't know, Tom. I think this guy's okay. 90 points.
No.
He's a little monster.
No, I would still rather have another Rune Father. Like again, you got to remember. Please remember, you are literally, you have like 8 foot heroes.
Yep.
That are options, and most of them are better stat wise down the line than these two. Or they have real functions like prayers or other things like that. Like this is a 4-inch move dwarf that you're trying to get across the table.
Yep.
Like it's such a trap. Okay.
I hold on real quick. Drakari, let me amend my statement when I say point hikes across the board. I mean to the offensive things. So I'm specifically, when I say Seraphon, I meant specifically like Lord Croak and his related nonsense. So, sorry. Anyways, not across the board. If you're playing the fun stuff like Sauruses and stuff, you don't need anything. You're good. You're A+. Okay. So, Grimwrath Berserker. He went up 10 points. He lost Unstoppable. And he gained this big oath thing. You can like pick oaths, and they can chant their little oaths, and it gives them little bonuses. I have a little arrow here pointing to the fact that if this model is slain in the combat phase and has fought no more than once in that phase, it can fight before it is removed from play. That's actually a change, because it always had the dead but not defeated rule, but it used to just be any time.
Right.
So like, if he died if he was fighting a unit that had like shooting weapons and they shot him down, he would just like chop him in the shooting phase and stuff.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So now he has to die in
nerf.
Yeah, sure. He has to die in a specific phase now. Yes.
Okay. So it got weaker.
Yeah.
But
he's got more versatility because of the oaths, Tom.
He kind of does. Like to be clear, I have like 3 or 4 of each of these guys built and converted.
Sure.
So like I could truly run like the full on like hero, or not. They're not even heroes really, or they're just not leaders.
They're heroes, not leaders. Yes.
They're heroes, not leaders. Hero heavy like list of these guys, but they're just not good. Like, I don't know. Like, I know that, I'll say this, Kenny Lowell has had a lot of success with the Grimwrath Berserkers. He really enjoys them. And, like, they can do some work. I'll acknowledge that. But they're just not, I don't know. They're not Gotrek.
Well, I would hope
now,
not.
I understand they're only like 100 points.
Yeah, for a fifth of the price, yeah.
Right. But, like, I'll say this. I have put one of these guys in a list that have had an extra 100 points, and I was like, oh, this will be funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Like, when I couldn't actually get the 120 to have a real unit, like an Auric Hearthguard or a Hearthguard Berserker unit.
Yep.
I'd be like, I got 100 points. Yeah, I'll throw one of these guys in. This will be interesting. But it's not like, none of this changes that. Like, there's no abilities here that I'm building around.
All right, here's what I'll say. I'm standing these two. I like them. I think they're the coolest two units in the army. That's what I say. But
and
if
how
you
are
disagree,
you
comments, I want to know. Look, here's what I want to know. Last week, everybody was with Tom on the War Scroll cards. This week, what I want to know, put it in the chat or put it down in the comments if you're watching this later. Are these two guys cool or not? There you go. That's what I want to know. Okay? Because I think these guys are super cool, and I disagree with Tom.
So yeah, as Brian S. just said, are either of these worth more points, or are worth more of a place than having a Knight of Zeros? And the uniform answer is no, of course not.
Hey,
like he's going to do almost as much damage as them, be more survivable, have better mobility, and also buff all of your army.
I'm gonna let democracy decide here, Tom. We'll see what people think.
Ugh.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, they slightly changed. Really, the summation of this is, yes, they slightly changed these two.
So. And if there was, like, ever a time, ever, where, like, a new unit is warranted for an army, come on now. Like, Fyreslayers have 2 core non-hero units. Stop. Give us something.
I support Rillian. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Stormcast Eternals. Oh, I've got some opinions. All right. So, Gardas. We got Gardas Steel Soul. This guy, who's been built up in the narrative. Wait, why did that happen? Go back. There we go. Fought a Great Unclean One to a standstill and jumped into the Plague Guard and got out alive, and super awesome superhero landing, one of the coolest figs they've ever made. And this is the scroll. Am I a joke to you? Is this a joke to you? Is that what's happening right here? What is this? What is this? This is ridiculous. This scroll is embarrassing. Okay? This is embarrassing. Like, this is a Lord Celestant, a named Lord Celestant. One of the greatest named Lord Celestant. Okay?
Looks about as good as the Grimwrath to me. Boom!
I'm pretty sure the Grimwrath does a lot more damage. So at least he got that going for him.
I mean, does he though? Because at least Gardas has his cloak.
Yes, because this guy in melee does an average of 1.4 damage to a 4-up save. That's the real.
I don't know that the Grimwrath does a lot more, right?
It depends on which prayer he takes, what situation he's in, and that kind of stuff. So, anyways, look, the point is that if you either way, okay. This guy is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Like, I could go blow by blow here and talk about why I hate everything about this. This dude should just be a wrecking ball who comes in and smashes people, given what what he's a part of.
He should look more like Altharian, and less like a Grimwrath Berserker.
Well, and less like a weird, weak buff utility hero. Right? Yeah. The Lords of the Storm the Stormcast hero are supposed to be cut from the greatest heroes that have ever lived, reforged in the power of Sigmar, greatest of the gods outside of chaos, right?
Yep.
And this is what he's dealing with. I got news for you. Chaos is going to win. If this is the best we can put on the table, if this is the God King's wrath, send it back. I don't need that 6-up mortal wound only. It's not even a real feel no pain. He has this minimal aura of not even a real feel no pain. Thanks. Okay. When he dies, he can fight an extra time. Well, thank goodness I wouldn't want him to die without applying his 1.4 damage. Okay. His Saintly Assault is so wackadoo. The fact that he can declare this and Hollowed Knight heroes within range of him get a bonus attack and can reroll charges.
Hey,
thank God.
that can be a Star Drake.
It could, but the actual build is to just try to do this weird cheater thing where you take Gardas and a bunch of the Cat Lords, and you just charge them all in because the Cat Lords are the most damaging pound for pound of the heroes.
Yep.
And when you buff up the cat attacks and yada yada, but that's stupid. Okay. Obviously, his cloak is dumb and his command ability is nothing to write home about. Why? Why? I need an explanation, Tom, as to why we made basically a boring Lord Celestant out of this.
Because they just took the generic scroll and added an ability or two and called it a day. That's what this was. That's what this is.
Yep.
They went, okay, what's the core Lord Celestant? Awesome. We'll do that. We'll give him this buff aura and we'll give him this thing done.
Yeah. He's so depressing. And I haven't even talked about the fact that he's inexplicably on a 4-up save. That better come out in the FAQ that's an error and it's supposed to say 3+, like other Lord Celestants. Right.
Like all the rest of the Lord Celestants, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that's a misprint. Okay?
Yeah, all of the critique up until this point has been assuming that that's a misprint.
Correct. Because if it's not, if that's a legit 4-up, I am even angrier.
Oh, he's so bad. Maybe this is what the rest of the Lord Celestants are going to look like. The War Scroll is in the new world.
Yeah. So somebody said, I feel like there's so much untapped potential in the concept of the Stormcast. Completely agree. Yes. It's... Okay. The Stormcast are the coolest thing that they've made. It's such a good concept. There's such a good core here, and they've taken a lot of good steps to improve the Stormcast with things like the Sacrosanct Chamber and stuff like that, and it really exploring what these things can do. I didn't mention it in the news, but the new short story is all about Stormcast going into a Nagash stronghold to capture back souls that have been stolen by Nagash before they could return to Sigmar, and it's a Lord Veritant and a bunch of evocators, and they're just ripping through ghosts and just housing people. Or no, sorry, Lord Exorcist. And the Lord Exorcist is just ripping ghosts to pieces and just they are housing this place before they're eventually overwhelmed. And it was an amazing story. And the Stormcast are just this force, right?
That's why it's a story.
Yeah, there's 4 of them, and they're just cutting their way through stuff until they eventually get overwhelmed and have this mighty sacrifice. And I'm then I read these rules, and I'm ludonarrative dissonance too strong. My head breaks. I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
Well, maybe Stormcast will be good in the new book. Maybe they will rewrite Gardas' scroll 2 months later in a new book.
I'm fine with it. Do that. Great. Good. Yes.
GW, you still have time. Do it. Do it now.
Absolutely. All I'm saying is I just want Stormcast to feel like they do in Soulbound. That's all I want.
It's you mean good?
Just, awe-inspiring bastions of the God King's wrath. Okay. Anyways, so that's Stormcast. Rant over. It's so bad.
It's true. On the flip side, I like that Hollow Knight's finally got a real hero,
Sure.
a named hero.
I mean, real hero stuff is a tough thing, but yes, they got one. He exists. I'll give you that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk KO. Okay. Kharadron Overlords, new triumphs, and a new battalion. So they got 6 new specific triumphs.
Mm-hmm.
There were some interesting options here to add, such as allowing Aether Chemists to use their augmentation ability in a garrison and at a slightly longer range.
Yep.
Which is a big deal, because they previously couldn't use their etheric augmentation while they were garrisoned or on a unit that was garrisoned, and now they can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There's another one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you. I was just going to let you go here. That's why I kind of kept this light. What other ones did you like? My summations overall, they're fine. Good options.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is that like them being able to fire off their like overcharge in the hero phase in the ship actually means that like the KO ship bouncing around with 20 Thunderers becomes scary, because for that one turn that they need to be super punchy, they can be, and you don't need to worry about them like starting outside the ship and then jumping in and yada yada. Like you don't have to do the whole like everybody sets up outside of the ship, you buff, and then everybody gets inside the ship, and then the ship jumps.
Right.
You don't have to do any of that.
Let me answer a comment real quick. No, Million, we're building up to Belakor. Keep going.
Yeah. The large caliber augmentation is the other one that I really liked, which is also an Aether Chemist one, because it gave reroll wounds to ships.
Yeah.
Which is like a really big deal, because you can't get that any other way.
Right.
You can get reroll hits, but this actually gave reroll wounds, which is pretty awesome.
Yep.
So, and the other ones were fine.
Yeah, they're fine. I agree with Brian S, who said below the magazine, which is kind of the idea of which is such a cool concept of like, it's such a great like narrative thing, right? Of them hitting the rest of the Aether weapons and just as the enemies take the ship down.
Is
sadly it just just didn't. Yeah, it's nope. Didn't quite get there. It's it's a very small explosion. It's about as effective as when like Bugs Bunny would put his finger in the end of Elmer Fudd's shotgun or something, or Daffy Duck would get shot and it would just spin his beak around. It's that amount of damage is being done.
Yes. This does not bode well for triumphs in new AOS.
Sure, yeah. The question is, do triumphs go away, get smaller, get reduced down?
Well, because remember, the KO, like, their allegiance ability is tied to triumphs.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't fully go away, because then the ships would no longer be able to ever use their triumphs. Like, they couldn't use their Aether Gold anymore. So, I'm not saying that triumphs are going away in the new edition, but rather, like, this kind of, like, shoring that up for characters is somewhat concerning to me. So we'll see what actually happens.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say thank you 2+. Doug, the hero in the chat, said he'll watch fully tomorrow, but he wanted to pop in and give a like. Be like Doug, hit the like button. So yeah, I mean, overall good. I'm glad to see him. I'm glad they sort of backfilled this, so even if they do change triumphs to give them triumphs, these are kind of locked in as cool options.
You at least have something as an option.
Yeah,
right.
That's good. I like that kind of. One, they're flavorful even if they don't change triumphs, so that's cool and it gives neat options. And 2, it's a nice backstop against that.
It's true.
Right?
It's true.
So that's cool.
Yeah, and the KO probably aren't going to get a book till late in the new edition.
Yeah, sure. Their battalion is an Endrin Master with dirigible suit. It is a named character. 2 units of Endrin Riggers or Sky Wardens. It is in Barak Zilfin, or Zilfin. I always say that wrong. Zilfin, I think, is the proper pronunciation. And you get +3 move for those people, and you can also apply that bonus to a Sky Vessel if they're sort of nearby. And it's 120 points.
Everything about this. Just all of it. Like, it was so exciting to me. It was such a ride, because I was like so high on this, and I was like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. I got extra dudes, and they also buffed the thing, and they buffed their movement, and like, I'm just stoked. And then this is all going away and going to be meaningless soon.
Potentially. Again, if battalions go away, we're keeping that in the back of our mind. But yes, if battalions go away, it'll be a shame. But like I said, it won't matter. You'll get almost probably an equivalent battalion, like a hero and a couple units of normal dudes.
That adds movement to both my sky dudes and to the ships. Do you think?
I don't know, man. I have no answer on that, no concept on that. I cannot tell you what it's going to do or not do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
So, let's see. So that's KO. All right, where are we at? Who's next? Nighthaunt. Now we're into the meat of the thing.
The rest of the book.
The real stars of the show. Okay. Nighthaunt. Lots of meaty changes for the Force, correcting a long-standing issue. So we begin with 2 new subfactions, the Emerald Host and Reichnor's Condemned. So the Emerald, both of which are kind of building on old battalions, effectively, previously existing battalions. Again, this kind of lends credence to the rumor that battalions are going away, because why else would you basically fold battalions into subfactions?
Like 100%, yes.
Feels a bit on the nose. At any rate, the Emerald Host, you get to choose 1 enemy hero, give him -1 to save for the whole game. Gardas could be on a 5-up. You get +1
Unless
attack.
he spends a command point and goes back down to a 4-up.
Sure. Good point. You can have +1 attack. You gain +1 attack for your Hex Wraiths. You've got a 2+ bodyguard for the general to pass wounds to the Hex Wraiths. Your command trait is once per battle you can use a command ability on your War Scroll. Very important addition. For free. Okay. And your artifact.
And it also means, you also give up the regen of D3 Ghosts that's in the current book, which is really important because if you're running Hex Wraith heavy, you want that command trait to return a D3 Hex Wraiths.
Does the coach return whole Hex Wraiths?
It does. That was the magic, is that between the 2 of them, you're returning 2 D3 Hex Wraiths.
Sure.
Which is like 12, can be up to 12 wounds.
Sure.
That's kind of a big deal. That's
I
a
think
big swing.
I think people underestimate the coach. I really do. I've seen you use it so many times and been very impressed by it. So, anyways.
Yeah, it can do some work.
I fought both against it and with it on my side, and honestly, it's not the part that let me down in most games. When we were teamed up, it was usually your Hex Race that let me down.
You're right.
Just saying, that coach was doing work. Anyways,
yeah.
And then the artifact is a +1 to attack weapon, specifically for the Night of Shrouds.
Right. I love that you can get around it by just not taking a Night of Shrouds. You're like, nope, I'll take my free artifact.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're the Nighthaunt player here.
Yep.
So like Emerald Host, what's your general feelings? You like it?
I like that it's incentivizing Hex Wraith use. That's encouraging.
Sure.
I don't like that the bonus attack is only the turn that they charged. And that I'm also losing the extra D3 regen from the command trait. And like those, like any benefits that are here are immediately washed out by the negatives. So like when I look at this, like those are a wash.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough.
I like that it's very anti-Archeon. I'm a fan of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of the things that Nighthaunt struggles against are big mega tanky heroes.
Yeah.
Like Archeon or these big like Death Star style things that they just can't crack. And this really helps them crack those targets.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I like that, but but I'm losing enough other core proficiency that I'm just real hesitant on this. Like this isn't really giving me anything new. It's forcing me to take Hex Wraiths.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. All right, and then Reichnor's...
And
oops, sorry, go ahead.
Well, hold on. And Lord of the Host. The irony here is that like that could be like lorem ipsum text. So I forgot to mention that. that's actually a completely non-usable ability, because if you are playing Nighthaunt, universally, you should always have a Dreadblade Hero as your general. Always.
Wait, who doesn't have a command ability is your point?
Who does not have a command ability. Right. So this Lord of the Host actually does 0 on him because he doesn't have his own command ability. So, in light of that, now that I remember that, this is a net negative.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about Reichenor's Condemned, because I think this one's pretty.
On the other hand,
I think this was pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay, so Reichenor's Condemned. You can reroll hit rolls for Chain Rasps and Glaive Wraith Stalkers. That's the last time I'm going to say Glaive Wraith Stalkers, because you're not. You just all these might as well say.
Hey, shut your mouth! I built 16 of them recently.
I know you did. You did it for a battalion. Okay, so
for the Condemned.
I understand.
Right, this battalion. Let me point that out.
You got a shout out, I think, from Smorgan. He was talking about you talking about these for the Condemned battalion and why you like them in that battalion. So, anyways,
right.
Okay, you can reroll hit rolls for Chain Rasps, very likely, or Glaive Wraith Stalkers, unlikely. Well, within 15 inches of a Spirit of Torment.
But you already have your rerolls, by the way. On Glaive Wraith, you already have rerolls on the charge.
I know.
Womp, womp, womp.
Yeah. So your Chain Rasp, while they're within 15 inches of a Spirit Torment or Chain Ghast.
Right.
So that's cool. I think Chain Ghasts are actually one of those things, again, that are underrated. I think people need to...
I have 4 in my list, and I love them.
Yeah, they're
this really sneaky unit that if people don't handle, will handle you. Like, if you match them up against the right thing.
Yeah. Agreed. And then whenever Chain Rasps or those other guys are affected by Spectral Lure or Temporal Translocation spell from the Guardian of Souls, you get to return D6 models in addition to the normal thing.
Can I point something out? They're still writing temporal translocation, but they've banned that war scroll. The only war scroll that has that. That's the Guardian of Souls with the lantern.
Yeah,
the one that was the store one.
Yeah.
So that doesn't actually exist in match play at all anymore.
Sure.
What this is they literally copy pasted the battalion text.
I understand.
This is almost like rubbing salt in the wound.
Sure, of this guy who doesn't exist. But
yes.
The Spectral Lure, obviously, you can still do, because that's the other dude. Yes, the Guardian of Souls regular original recipe.
Yep.
He's not extra crispy or whatever.
Yep.
Sweet and tangy barbecue Guardian of Souls is no longer available, but you can still get original recipe. Yeah, I mean, this is a good ability. Like, D6 extra models in addition to the other thing is solid.
I mean, it's fine. You have to run a Guardian of Souls, which is the drawback.
Sure.
140 points is a lot for a single caster.
It is, but at the same time, returning that kind of models, it might swing the balance into it being worth having one in there.
2d6 is if you get your cast off on a no bonus 100 point.
I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying, like, 2d6 is a big amount of models to return to a unit. That's all.
It is, and you're paying 140 points to maybe do that if your spell goes through.
I get it. I get it.
But none of that matters. I don't care about almost it. I like the rerolls.
Sure.
The rerolls.
Then we get to the
reroll ones to wound. Yeah. But the thing that actually matters here, the only thing that matters in my mind, is that this next ability, Acolyte of the Grimhauler, if Reikenor the Grimhauler is included in the army, he is treated as a general in addition to the model that's chosen to be the army's general.
Oh, yes. Explain why that's so good in Nighthaunt.
Right. So one of the generic abilities of Nighthaunt is that your general gains this, like, summon the Army of the Damned ability or whatever, and he can teleport any Nighthaunt unit on the board totally within 12 inches of him.
Yes.
Okay. And so
basically.
You can pull any unit to him by spending a command point. And so it made Nighthaunt amazingly mobile, especially because you'd like choose the Dreadblade Hero as your general, and then like you could teleport him and then whip any unit to where he is.
Right.
And so it just gave you supreme mobility on the board, which is great, but it was on a 5 wound hero. Sure. And so it was always just really susceptible to
being sniped out because it was on one guy
sniped.
who wasn't that tough.
But now it's on 2 guys.
Yes.
And one's an 8-wound hero.
Yeah.
Right. He's an 8-wound hero. And so suddenly, like, it just changes the math of, like, what's happening on the table. And, like, that mobility, like, there's not a real reprisal. Like, you can remove one of those, but that's not going to help you with both of them.
Yep.
And so, like, to me, this was, like, a game changer. Because this adds, like, a step function of flexibility to the army that they simply didn't have before. Now, when you combine that with the fact of potentially replenishing command points every turn, then you're talking some real gas in the engine.
Yeah. So then, and you have a good command ability, the plus 6-inch movement for chain rasps, which I think is great.
Yep.
And then it's
fine. It's fine. It becomes funny that, like, they suddenly, with that and the generic item that they have, which is like a generic +2 move or +3 move. Yeah. Suddenly, like, you can be like, oh, these guys are going to move 6. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
15, and then auto run 6.
Yeah.
So Wrath suddenly have a 21-inch move.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Those little boys are getting around.
Who needs to teleport on these small boards?
Right, yeah, exactly. You don't need to teleport when you can just move like 21 inches. And then their artifact.
That's 2 command points, to be fair.
Sure. Is a little corpse candle, which is way over designed, but whatever.
Well, it's Reichnor's ability. What it does is it gives Reichnor's ability.
I know what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I know where it comes from. I get it. Reichnor takes one of his little candles and he's like, here you go. You can have one of mine. My point is, it's like, you can snuff it and it does a mortal wound. And depending on the phase you snuff it in and who you apply the mortal wound to, then a different set of bonuses occur. So it's just like...
Oh, yeah.
Did we need 4
conditions
paths for this artifact's bonus? It's like, because it's if A...
I don't even know who
B,
you put artifacts on.
Whatever. You get it.
I don't even know who you put artifact. Like, I think the right answer here has to be on your Guardian of Souls. So that one spell that you need to get off is at +3.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's who this has to be on, right? Because when I look at, like, everybody else, like, all the combat heroes are bad. Like, they're just not good. So you're not putting this on a combat hero.
Sure. I mean, suddenly being able to cast that once on +3, that's a big old bonus.
Right.
That's some gosh bonus.
But at that, or you take the tome and just give yourself, I don't know, because they have an item that's just a flat +1 always.
I understand.
So I don't know. It's fine.
But overall, I think Reichenor's Condemned is solid. Like, it's real good. It takes your main meat unit, makes them good. It takes Reichenor, who's a super cool dude, and just like great model and a great war scroll, and actually makes him like super useful in his army.
Well, on their best battle line, it gives reroll all hits
and crazy movement potential.
Right, and they already have reroll wounds of 1.
Right.
Like, baked into the war scroll. Yep. So, like, that actually makes them really good against other like elite units.
Sure,
like,
and in a world where armor bonuses get capped, right, it's pretty solid, because they do make a lot of attacks.
Right.
So, little 25 mil bases, multiple attacks per model, yada, yada. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's keep going, because there's some more Nighthaunt stuff. There's more ghost stuff. So, yeah, here we go. 2 new war scrolls. Sort of. The first being the Dread Scythe Harridans getting a rewrite. Blink and you'll miss it, but I assure you it is slightly different. The Harrowing Shriek ability, which is their neg 1 to hit that they can put on people, now works on models that are Bravery 6. It did not before. They kind of switched the wording around. I had to flip back and forth between these two and read it multiple times to make sure I wasn't losing my mind.
Yep.
But it does work on Bravery 6 now.
Right.
Which is actually a significant difference, because there are a lot of Bravery 6 models in this game. It's actually quite a popular number for things to be. If you were to like look at the Bravery chart, it would spike real high at 6 and spike real high at 10. right? Their Bloodlust ability, instead of being the like 2 damage on a wound of 6, is now just a standard double tap on a 6 to hit. I have written here they are still not battle line. And they went up from 70 260 with the horde bonus to 90 320. So okay, next war scroll. I mean, like,
I wanted them to be good.
Yeah,
and
because they're
playable.
so cool. I was so excited when I saw they were getting a rewrite. I was like, oh boy, they're gonna be good.
No, they missed it again.
Yeah.
I mean, like, they're competing in space. That includes the Grimgas, even though the Grimgas are certainly more expensive. But actually not a lot, right? Because 90, they're priced at Grimgas price. Because Grimgas are 160 for 10. So they're yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk in a moment about how you can use these guys for the next 2 months. Okay. So then the Cruel Ghast Cruciator, our other new model, they feature in that story today as well, the new short story, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy's interesting. He's interesting. But I'm not going to give him more than interesting. But here he is. Okay. His basic ability is this. Like, the reason you have this guy, he's a 6 wound, 4 up save, ethereal, 6-inch fly hero. So, whatever, that's fine.
He's fine.
For 120 points. His special ability is basically this. If he uses a shooting attack and does a wound, okay?
Okay.
Which, like, whatever, it's not out of the... That's not that hard to achieve, but it's not that easy to achieve. To be clear, it's moderate.
It's an attack against a unit within 12 inches.
Yes.
4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -2 red.
Yep. So, like, it's not that unlikely.
And he is not a named character.
He is not a named character. It is not that unlikely that he does 1 damage, which is all he needs to do to turn on this ability.
Well, hold on. 4 attacks, 3s and 3s. -2 rend, like, there will, like, against a 3-up save, that is not.
Again, we always baseline against a 4-up save, and against a 4-up save, his average damage is like almost exactly 1.
Sure.
So, again, yes, pick your target, blah 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 blah, whatever. I said it's okay. I didn't say it's not easy. It's not hard. It's moderate. In other words, it's the sort of statistically modal outcome if you can get in range and you roll average, he tends to do about 1. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. By the way, this guy is a totem. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. He works for your stupid secondary objective at Nash 1.
Anyways. Reppin' totems. Okay, anyways. If that goes down, then the Feel No Pain ability that Nighthaunt have for being near a hero, which they obviously are, theoretically, because, he's around, right? So, like, they have it. Goes from a 6+ to a 5+, but only for wounds, not for mortal wounds.
And only units wholly within 12 of him.
Right. Wholly within 12 is a perfectly fine bubble. It's perfectly fine.
It's not, because you know what the best part about this rule is?
I'm ready.
You can only use this in your turn.
Sure. Yes, correct.
Because you have to have shot. But the problem is that if you are that close, you're actually going to have you will have either most likely have charged that turn as well. And charging a unit at, like, with him at 12, like, if he isn't like 4 inches off the line, getting a whole unit wholly within 12 and engaging like an enemy line is actually, like, really difficult to do. I've done this. I know this because like setting up and charging, especially in a Nighthaunt, it's so easy to charge out of your bubble, your 12-inch bubbles.
Sure.
And it's like really hard to maintain that. And him having to like shoot means it's only in your phase that this is triggering. And then
it lasts until your next shooting phase, but yes, I understand.
But the point being that like it just becomes an issue because of the way 12-inch bubbles work and because of the way combat works. Like you're not going to use this on Hex Race ever.
No, I don't think you were. No, I think it's something that you're going to generally buff a unit of infantry that's around him.
Right, and it's not really going to be any of your 32 mil base infantry because you can get like 7 models in that area.
Oh my god, that's so ridiculously wrong. Do you know you could fit an army in a Holy Within 12? You know why I know that, Tom? Because that stupid bridge. I've literally watched my city's opponent take 5 units of 30 people or something ridiculous.
But you're not able to engage the enemy. But you're engaging the enemy with like 7 models when you do that. That's my point. Look, is that you may have your whole army within 12 of like 30 units or 30 models. That's fine. Only 7 of them can actually get in combat. And if any of them pile in, they'll break your Holy Within 12. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem here.
Okay, look. 2 things. 1, Corn is like, don't cry for me, Argentina, with your Holy Within 12 luxurious bubbles as they're fighting with their Holy Within 8 and garbage like that we're going to talk about in just a minute with the Legion of the First Prince. So, 1, shut your mouth, okay? Holy Within 12 is like the stock standard of this game, okay? It just is. So, if it's hard, then yeah, it's hard because you're not meant to have it all the time. You're meant to need to play carefully to get it. Now,
but
my problem
it's also
with
on a conditional ability.
Sure. My issue is that it doesn't cover mortal wounds. Because ultimately, I agree with you, you got to work for it. No disagreement. It's not automatic, you got to work for it. Okay?
And it's a marginal damage reduction buff.
I mean, there's a big difference between going from 6 up to 5 up. Like, a catastrophically huge difference. But the problem with it is, it doesn't cover mortal wounds. That's why I don't like it. That's it. If they FAQ'd this and said, oops, sorry, we left mortal wounds off, but yeah, it works on those too. I'd be like, okay, this guy's interesting. Is he like great? Is he an auto take? No. But could he have a home in certain lists? Yeah, 100%. Because going to a 5-up Feel No Pain in a big bubble around him, and it is a pretty big bubble, okay, is just solid. Like, especially as it's not always just you engaging. Okay, like, yes, maybe you charge, and then you get countercharged, or the unit spills around you, or whatever. It's still more defense.
But you have to have triggered you have.
He did it in his phase. It's going to last until your next shooting phase.
Sure, but if you get charged, he can't trigger it. He can't buff his.
The point is, you set it up. He did it. He's an interesting defensive bastion hero in that regard. You can it's a nice thing if you can line up, shoot a dude, charge people off an objective or whatever, and then hold it. That's a pretty good bonus to have. The game isn't only you charging into people.
But with this ability, functionally, it almost is. That's my concern. Is that setting this up is actually really difficult in any reliable manner.
I disagree with really difficult.
I would love to see you run this guy. And jump through all the hoops, and we would get 30 minutes into the game, and you'd be like, yeah.
I run Slanesh. You think I'm going to get disappointed by rules? Get out of here. Okay? Give me a break. I'll take... Your last sub-faction we just covered has more synergy than my entire battle tome. I don't want to hear it, Tom.
Okay.
So, it's fine. I don't like it right now because it doesn't cover mortal wounds. That's the issue. Because that's where the weakness is here. Sure. Right? It would have been interesting because Nighthaunt have this problem with people who kind of could splash mortal wounds around pretty heavily, right? And this would have actually been a mathematically interesting way to kind of hedge against that. But because it doesn't do that, that to me is what removes his role.
So Meth said that if he gets charged, couldn't he shoot as a charge reaction, and then trigger this ability? The answer is hypothetically yes. assuming that whatever allows you to trigger that like ability allows him to shoot.
Yep. It seems like it's. Thank you, Meph. Excellent point. Excellent point. I like this guy even more now. Meph here with the win.
So you're gonna let me get this straight.
Mm-hmm.
You are gonna spend a command point to give yourself a 4 attacks at -1 to hit.
Yeah, it'd be 4s and 3s, -2 rend, 1 damage.
4s and 3s, -2 rend. Hoping that you're gonna get 1 damage through in order to increase the after save by 1 on units wholly within 12 of only wounds. Like that's what
like I said. The reason I don't
me.
rate him is because of the not mortal wounds, right?
Like,
again, against certain armies, yeah, maybe depends on what I'm getting charged by. Sure, because again, it's actually like this isn't that hard to set up defensively, even without the stand and shoot reaction. I just fundamentally disagree with that. But at any rate, we'll see.
Is that really worth a command point though?
I don't know, man.
Why not?
I can't give my unit +1 to save because I'm a ghost.
Oh my god. Also true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm ethereal, so I can't get the bonus to save. So, yeah, I got some command points to burn here, buddy. They're in my pocket, just waiting to be spent. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Look out. Okay, so at any rate, new battalion. The last thing we have for Nighthaunt. I want to keep moving. Sorrowmorn Choir. Boy, for 2 months, this is going to be interesting.
Womp 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 womp.
It has Lady O, 1 Dread Scythe Harridans, 2 Mirmorn Banshees. It gives you a 2-up bodyguard for Lady O to the other units in the same battalion, which is fantastic. Lady O counts as a general in addition to the other model. So if you do stick this all in Reichnor's Condemned, you can trip Jen. You're living that invader's lifestyle, but you get to do it where all your heroes actually can work together and help each other. So that's nice. Yep. And I mean, what's it do, right? So I wrote the what's it do here, and in my estimation, Lady O is a really, really, really powerful piece. Like, she does so much damage.
She does.
The problem with Lady O has been that she is like an 8 wound model that is pretty easy to remove. Okay.
Right.
And like every time I've met Lady Olander on the table, I've just charged her with something aggressive and blown her up. Right.
Yep.
Like she's not fast enough. She can't protect herself enough. Like all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And giving her a 2-up bodyguard to other units actually does significantly increase her wounds.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it becomes this sort of
it's not like
mechanism.
The Dread Scythe Harridans are going to do anything else.
Right. Like that unit is just literally there to die for her. So, do I have it backwards? It's supposed to be 2 units of Dread Scythe Harridans?
No, it's one Dread. I'm looking at it right now. One Dread Scythe Harridan, 2 units of Mirmorn.
Cool. Good. I thought I got it right. Okay. Yeah, I mean...
you'd get 3 battalions. So with battalion, if you go in the Reichnors, you get 3 generals.
Yes. Because you'd have whoever you picked, like your Dreadblade Hero, realistically.
Yep. Plus
Reichnor, since you're in Reichnors Condemned, and he counts as a general. Plus Lady Olander, because this battalion makes her count as a general. So they're all floating around as generals, all using that teleporty trick, too.
Right, but that won't matter in the next edition.
Sure. Again, if battalions go away, then you lose this fun trick, but hey, there you are.
Yep.
So, there you go. Okay. Yeah. And this battalion isn't that expensive. I don't have the points written down, but I want to say it's like 120 or something like that off the top of my head. I don't remember.
It's fine.
Yeah. It's cool. It's a cool trick. It'll May and June. You got to wait to use this in tournaments until we get the FAQ. So you'll have like 7 weeks.
You're assuming that they're going to update the FAQ before the edition change.
I am. Okay, let's talk Belakor himself. Big, bad, baby, Belakor. Let's do this. Okay.
I love Belakor.
I'm over here talking to Belakor. He's like, how am I gonna kill all these Stormcasts? And I'm like, Belakor, you got these big beautiful claws. Okay, so at any rate,
Yep.
Belakor, the Dark Master. Here is my summation of Belakor. He has a larger frame to hold a game-winning special ability at a better price. This was a rebalance of something that should have never been on such a cheap frame.
Sure.
Bottom line.
Yep. I agree with that.
Because he was an ally that just always showed up in every Chaos Army all the time, right?
Yep.
And he was way too cheap. Like, here's my answer. Some number of games will be won simply by using Dark Master.
Yes. Using Dark Master at the right time can win games.
Correct. Not every game.
Yep.
Not most games.
Yep.
But some games.
And let me just say,
in a 5-game tournament, it's very likely you might pull one win solely off of Dark Master. Like, that will be the easily deciding factor between victory and loss.
I did.
Sure.
Like, when I think back to the year I ran at Adepticon, I can think of at least one entire game that was simply just outright won by Dark Master.
Sure.
Yeah. I love Sim.
Yeah, he does more damage now. Like, his sword got bigger. He got 2 additional attack lines. The sword went to +2 attacks and additional rend. Dark Master changed a little. Might be worth talking about. It used to be that Dark Master, you could evade Dark Master if your unit could start off the board.
Right.
Because he had to pick something that was on the board at the start of the game, and then it still fired even if Belakor died. Right?
Yep.
Now, both of those things are reversed. Right?
Well, and you don't have to predictate what the unit is at the start of the game.
Exactly. He gets to choose later.
Right.
But he has to be alive to do so. Because obviously he has to be alive to use his ability. Right?
Before, like, you had to write down what unit was going to get screwed at the start of the game, which was always my favorite. I had this little laminated token with a picture of Belakor that said Belakor on it, and I would write and dry erase on the other side of the token and then just set it face down on the table.
Sure.
And be like,
Yeah.
Oh.
So, to me, whenever you put an ability on a monster or on a creature that can just literally through its use win the game. This is one of my problems with the Scenario Lore Seeker, right? Like, he has an ability that will win games at the margin, and it's just way too cheap for what that is, right? 160 points for him. Like, that frame is too small to contain an ability that big, right?
Right.
So this guy's better priced and makes sense for what he's able to accomplish. Yeah, he's scary. He will bracket and stuff like that. He is a monster now. He can bracket down. He is quite tough in his own sub-allegiance, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Outside of his sub-allegiance, he's okay. He's fine. So, he's 14 wounds on a 4-up ethereal. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Sure.
There's not a lot on a 14 ethereal anymore.
Sure. Yeah. So 380 points, that's the amount he should be to contain that ability. Like, he's still allyable, so he can still show up, but that's a significant bigger dedication of points you have to make to him, which I think is healthy for the game. Right? Like, I didn't like this guy showing up at like 240 and just always being there, just bringing, because he was just a Dark Master delivery system. That's it.
Right.
This is a healthier way to build this guy. Bottom line.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Let's talk Legion of the First Prince. It is a replacement for the old Loka. I say old like it's that old, but it's a year and a half or whatever. A replacement for the Legion of Chaos Ascendant and Legion of the First Prince rules that were in the Wrath of the Everchosen.
Yep.
And this is we talked a while back, Tom, about modular versus linear design, right? And this is like a very modular allegiance. One of the most modular allegiance they've ever made, right? because but I mean it's a continuation of Loka before it, but this can take the only units you can have in your army are chaos demons, right? So they have to have those two keywords, but they can be any chaos demons.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So reroll hit rolls for Belakor when he's within 18 inches of one of each of the battle line demons. When I say battle line demons, I mean you have to be within. So those are bloodletters, daemonettes, plague bearers, and horrors. And you're never going to get that ability. So, because he has to be within one of each. He has to have 4 of those units within range of him.
Yep.
So, nope. But if Belakor is on the battlefield and a general, roll a dice for each friendly battle line demon on a 3+, return D3 models. You only get 1 horror back. So that's cool. Because that's just sort of, as long as he's alive and the general, you just get to start putting models back. There's no range to that. It's just everybody. Sad part about that is they changed it from bolded to the specific battle line demons. Right? Because you used to be able to do it with anything with the bolded keyword. So, like, plague drones, would you get a D3 back? Right? Or seeker chariots. It's his, what's the name of it? Because I just wrote the abilities. It's in there.
I am not seeing this.
It's called like the Darkened Skies or something like that.
The Cursed Skies?
Sure, why not? I don't know. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, okay, I see it. Never mind.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I translated all this in, but I didn't I didn't.
Yep.
I was trying to be succinct and not just
at the end of the battle shock phase. Yep.
Yes. There you go. You get a 6-up feel no pain for the whole army. So all your people get a 6-up feel no pain.
Right.
Yeah, it is a shame that you can't return like D3 Seeker Chariots anymore because that was funny, but at the same time, like, okay, I get it. And you get to do a 3d6 roll at the end of the movement phase from one of your heroes to summon 1 unit of basic demons of the battle line demons each round on a 10+. So again, like 10 bloodletters depends on the mark of the hero you used it from. They summon by their mark. Belakor can summon anything or 6 Furies.
Right.
Which is hilarious. So yeah. You get a universal spell here. All your casters get 1 spell called Master's Command, which is just a fight on death spell. The command traits I think that are good that people would take would be either the +1 to summoning the Unyielding Legion, so it goes off on a 9 effectively. If you roll a 9 on the dice, it actually that does screw with the odds in actually a pretty significant way. Or +1 to the Feel No Pain, so it's a 5-up Feel No Pain, then wholly within 8 of the general.
Yeah, it's interesting. You didn't mention the Feel No Pain on Belakor.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped that. I should have mentioned that. Yes,
which I would argue that's the most significant ability here.
It is, and I actually was typing quick and left it off. That's my mistake. But yeah, go ahead and knock that out because yes, it is relevant.
Because if Bellacor's within 9 inches of any of those battle line units, the Bloodletters, the Horrors, the Daemonettes, or the Plague Bearers, he gets basically a 4-up Feel No Pain that gets allocated to those units instead.
Yeah, the trick is it's a bodyguard, so he gets that and his 6+ in his faction.
Right. Yes. And so he would have like 4-up Unrendable, and then 4-up Bodyguard, and then 6-up.
Yep.
And the 4-up Bodyguard, he can pass to like a Horror that can split.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could pass it to a Plague Bearer that'll have its own 5-up negation.
Yes.
Yeah. And then they can then regen using the Cursed Skies.
Yep.
So,
he'll end up tougher in this than he will be in Despoilers. Because in Despoilers, he would get a flat 5-up shrug, Feel No Pain, right?
Right.
But the difference is if he keeps his battle line demons near him, he's tougher here because he's 4-up, 4-up, 6-up, as opposed to just 4-up, 5-up.
This is none of those allegiances. This is the Chaos Demon allegiance.
Right. So it's It says when you're taking a Chaos Army, like this is its own thing. It's not in Slaves to Darkness. It is its own
You are a
allegiance
Chaos
under
allegiance.
Yes.
Yes.
It's its own allegiance under Chaos. Like, it is separate from Slaves to Darkness or anything else. Though, he, like, just to return to him real quick, I don't have it on the scroll here, but he does have the Slaves to Darkness keyword.
And the undivided yes. For marking. Yeah.
So you can take him in a Slaves to Darkness army. He doesn't have to be in his own allegiance here. Yep. And then the artifacts, it's got the 4-fold blade still, which is still good. Still good.
Yep.
Yep. It's you know, roll your attacks, every 5 up is a D3 mortal wounds, basically. So, yeah, solid. Still solid on a Verminlord Corruptor, which is what everybody always gives it to. Or if you want to be silly like me, you can put it on a Contorted Epitome, who has 9 attacks.
It's true.
So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting allegiance. It's very modular because it's like do whatever you want. I've seen lots of people playing with lots of different lists. There's a ton of units in this, right? Because you can get the Skaven Demon Lords, you can get like Kadai, you can get you know, obviously all of the main demons themselves, right? So plague drones and all that kind of stuff can be in here. So you know, there's quite a wide selection of stuff you can build, but it is all very modular.
It's just so uninteresting to me because aesthetically the demons are so different.
Sure.
That like this type of like rainbow army, I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, sure. But I know there's a lot of people who do like this. There's a lot of people who are big fans of the like demonic hordes, right? The chaos demons as a thing. And this does enable that. It's the same thing I said when they first made Loka.
Yeah. Is
that I know there is a section of people out there who really dig just like the sort of demonic hordes concept.
Sure.
And yeah, there you go. Yep.
I'm glad that they have this.
Yep. Yeah, Autumn, I mentioned the spell right here. Master's Command, that's what I said. All your wizards get a spell that's fight on death. Yeah, good stuff. Anything else you want to say about that? Like, it's interesting. It's built around. It's not game breaking. I'm sure you'll see some fun lists. It has no battalions, but who cares?
They're all getting their own battalions.
Or does it, Tom? Or does it? By the way, let's just you want me to take another wild swing since this is show of wild swings?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to know what I would write for a generic battalion? Of 1 hero and like 3 battle line units or something like that?
What, Vince?
What ability I would put on it? I'd put a generic bodyguard ability on it for that hero.
Of course.
Because that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody complains about shooting and the ability to snipe out particular heroes.
Yep.
The easy way to solve the shooting problem is to make that generic battalion have a bodyguard ability built into it.
Right. What you do is like one of them is going to be like commander escort. And it'll actually be like, I mean, you could either go 1 with some from units, or it could be something like this: 2 to 4 heroes and 1 additional unit. That unit can absorb any wounds for any of those heroes.
It'll be the other way around because that's the better way to build it is the 1 hero that those people have to protect. So you can't bodyguard everybody because we need to be able to snipe some heroes, just not all your heroes.
Right. Well, but it's not useful if you only have 1 unit absorbing shots for 4 or 5, because that unit just simply almost can never be hard enough to actually take all those hits.
Sure.
So actually, like, what I described would keep them safe for a bit, but would not outright protect them. If you had 3 units, they could all absorb for 1 guy. That dude's never dying ever.
Yeah, well, it depends on what you set the bonus to.
Sure.
Right. If it passes on a 2-up, it's very different than if it passes on a 4-up. Right.
Right. Indeed.
Huge difference mathematically.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, it like you would believe it to say probably like 1 hero without the monster keyword and 3 units or something.
I mean,
like that.
So if I were writing as an aside, just we'll do this real quick. I would do a bodyguard, like keep the general alive style. I would do like a command squad where 2 to 4 heroes bonus command point on a 4-up or something. Sure. I would do a mobility skirmishy thing, right? So something where they can run and charge. and I would do one that allows you to either shoot or pile in the hero, or shoot or pile in an attack in the hero phase.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that one because I think people hate that. But sure,
well,
I get it.
It like something that is combat focused, right?
Yeah.
That gives because that's one of the abilities that's always chased that people are always looking for utilizing.
Sure.
And so that wouldn't surprise me. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with those because that just feels like it. That feels like the kind of thing they're going to write, right? It just kind of
like generic, all-purpose stuff that because I could see that even in the one I just named, the hero has to be within one of the units has to be wholly within 12 inches of the hero. If that's the case, the hero's still alive. Once per hero phase, they can command a unit to blah, right? To either shoot or pile in an attack.
Yeah, no, we're talking Autumn. We're talking the potential generic battalions with AOS 3.0.
The hypothetical. Vince speculated on one, and I pitched out the other four.
Right.
Is the types of things that we'll see. Probably.
Yep. All right. So now, narrative. Be warned. Here there be spoilers. Okay.
So we're gonna go through this quick.
We're gonna do just a brief overview to hit the high points of the story. Remember, Doug's lengthy series of videos is linked down below if you want the full recap. All right, Tom. We're giving everybody enough time for the spoilers. Okay, here we go. You've been warned.
So the first major move is we see a Seraphon campaign that takes place. It focuses on the Genesis gate. That is the gate from Giron to the All Points. Alariel had reluctantly opened that up back in Broken Realms Morathi. She now, and this returns to that scene where the Hallowed Knights are guarding the entrance. Because again, reopening that gate was a really big deal narratively. And what ends up happening is Gardas and the Hallowed Knights are holding it along with, I believe, some Celestial Vindicators. And a bunch of Seraphon drop in and they're like, yay, we're saved.
Yeah,
and
they're like fighting back the hordes of chaos that are coming to get the gate, right? Like they're getting overwhelmed, they're dying. Like they're taking down 5 for every 1 that they lose because Stormcast are the heroes. Continue.
But they're dying. And so they're like, oh no. And then the bushes rustle and some Seraphon come out and they're like, oh, these weird allies were saved. And then the Seraphon are like, they just phenomena right by
just
them.
Kind of skin through here. Excuse me.
They just march right past all the Stormcast.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Stormcast are like, curse you, your inevitable betrayal.
Yes.
This is actually dinosaurs in that scene.
Yeah, I get it. I was following. Yeah. It's a very good.
Yeah, thanks.
You didn't quote it exactly right, but I'm with you.
Yeah. Your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
There you go.
And then what ends up happening is they march into the All Points and they at the lead or at the command of Croak, they are hunting a Gaunt Summoner.
Yes.
And so they're the Book Eater, whatever
Eater of Tomes, yeah. Quick
Eater
note as we leave behind the Stormcast, who are at the gate.
Yep.
Gardas does eventually go and fight another Great Unclean One and loses again because he really
likes fighting Great Unclean Ones and losing.
Yes. At least this was narratively accurate. His hammer does basically no damage. I agree. That I do agree with on the scroll. And he gets crushed, but as he's dying, he sees that through the gate comes a bunch of Hammers of Sigmar.
And they're saved!
Yeah, they're saved, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he goes and gets reforged. And then it cuts to this, what we find out is Seraphon go through. They are chasing down the Gaunt Summoner that we met back in Morathi. So I like that they picked the narrative back up here. And they fight, and then they go to Space Station Seraphon, or I'm sorry, it was the Space Station Silver Tower.
Well, they're fighting, So they go to the Silver Tower, to the Eater of Tomes Silver Tower. Remember, there's 9 Gaunt Summoners, and they have these Silver Towers. This one's on the and so this one's in this particular
space.
Hidden Veil, basically, right? and they march their way across there. They start blasting this place, and they note that like they're all their like laser beams and attacks. They're tending to focus on like one area of the tower.
It's like an
really,
yeah. It's the nuclear reactor they're trying to crack.
Right. And so to defend itself, the Silver Tower is like, okay, enough of this. You know, Eater Tomes teleports back up into his command station, sticks his staff in the wall, and is like, beep, boop, beep. And he launches the Silver Tower into space because it takes off like a 50s sci-fi rocket. Like, I literally pictured this happening like an old 1950s black and white, you know.
Yep.
Leaves the Seraphon behind. He gets up into space, and he's like, haha, you'll never get me, Gadget. And then
in the void. Yes.
Like, he starts taking incoming fire. He opens his view screen. This is not a joke. Like, he waves his hand, and part of the tower becomes transparent, so he can see outside, right? And he looks outside the tower, and there are, like, 9 Seraphon spaceships.
Like pyramid spaceships opening fire.
Oh, like they weren't all just pyramids. Like, one of them was a straight up dragon-masted sort of like, or dragon-hulled shaped ship. And they just start laying into him, and laying into this tower with space weapons. And they're targeting that same spot, blowing it open. Okay.
Yes.
At the head of the fleet is Croak's personal spaceship, which has a name that I don't remember. It's a weird Seraphon name. And so they shoot this thing a whole bunch, and the Silver Tower.
Chariot of the Gods is the name of the ship.
And they shoot this thing a whole bunch, and the Silver Tower is meant to fly, but not like under this kind of firepower. So it crashes, but it doesn't crash back down into the same realm because again we're like up in space in some indeterminate amount of area.
So it lands on another planet.
Yeah,
Shimon.
It lands on Shimon. And by the way, just a quick pause here in the story. Where is this? Where is this in the rules? I want this so bad. You're giving me like this air battle thing. You know, like I appreciate that Jervis loves these kind of old school war games of like, you know, the planes fighting and doing little turns and stuff like that. And I know what games he was kind of repping, that he loves that style of game when he did the air battles. That's fine. Okay, I have no issue with that. Where is my AOS Firmament Warriors expansion? Where is Battlefleet Gothic AOS? Okay. Hold on. Wait a minute. There are laser dragon spaceships piloted by dinosaurs fighting against chaos magic rocket towers, and that's not anywhere in the game that I can purchase. We have missed a trick here, folks. We've missed a trick.
This is the Battletoad Gothic.
Battletoad Gothic. Did you pull that out of the comments, or was that out of you?
That was me. Sorry.
That is amazing. That's the funniest thing you've said on this show, maybe ever.
Thanks. One of the deep 80s cut. And so spaceships go boom.
Yeah.
And they crash on Shimon.
Yes.
And then gotcha.
Yeah. So it crashes down, and he's out there inspecting his tower. Right. Eater Tomes is out there. He's like, oh man, they messed up my tower, but I'm fine. I got away. They messed up
my ship.
Yeah.
My reactor's still right. I just need to get some repairs done on the ship.
And then in come another Seraphon. Like, boy, did Croak have layer upon layer of plan here. As the third Seraphon army, which he knew, like, as Croak had foreseen, all of this came to pass. The Thunder Lizards show up, so these are the Coalesce. They were there in Shimon waiting. They roll up, and then they attack, and they blow the powder. They blow the magazine.
They blow the powder. And Pop goes to Silver Tower. Pop goes one of the 9 Gaunt Summoners.
Yes, he is destroyed.
And the feedback causes a couple of interesting effects. The first of those is that it causes all the realm gates to like pop in this huge area and like create a feedlet back loop that does a bunch of destruction.
Across realms. The key is these Silver Towers. Each one is kind of connected to, and through the Veronite and stuff like that, to these to specific realm gates. And so across the realms, some realm gates, not a necessarily huge amount of them, but some go like boom and just explode and stop working. Okay. So that's one.
Yep.
And then two, and most importantly.
And then most importantly, this like mist, this dark cloud spreads out because of, Fahrenheit.
Right.
Because of reasons. And what we find out is that the Stormcast souls can no longer return to Aesir.
Under the Fahrenheit cloud. Which spends the rest of this story spreading over Shamon and beyond.
Like seemingly spreading to the other realms.
Yes, they talk about how it's spreading to the other realms. We'll get to some summation of that at the end. And so this is where Belakor kind of enters the story, but we'll get to him in just a second. The destruction of this blast is so massive it's hard to contain. It's hard to like fathom. In
it's
terms
a nuclear
of what would actually happen.
Explosion.
No.
It's a reactor just went.
It's not a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bombs are weak compared to this. Because they actually get really specific in this. Okay. The crater that this explosion creates is 1,000 miles wide. Now, there are no nuclear bombs that leave 1,000-mile wide craters.
Certain.
Okay.
It's like a meteor hit.
Yes, absolutely. Like it's that. First of all, that shows you the size of the realms, like how big they are. 1,000-mile wide crater, like throwing up that much junk, like on Earth, that's a world-ending event. Like literally, just that's it.
Yes,
right. It's the crater itself is 1,000 miles wide. That's not the full realm of the like explosion. Like it shatters mountains. It evaporates an ocean. Like it is beyond massive. There's a KO fleet we pick up with, right? That's like 6,000 leagues away, and they see this explosion.
And they're like, that's not good.
Yes. They talk about how the only reason it was able to survive, even though it was that far out, was because it was like a brand new ship that had been fitted with like the newest aethermatic resistances. So it was like really good at withstanding the realm magics. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy crap. That was a big boom. Like, it is a massive, massive, massive asteroid hitting a planet, right? It's an unfathomable amount of damage. It would be like, on the scale of our world, it's just complete end. It's end. Within minutes, all life is dead.
So you're saying that a comet killed the dinosaurs?
I'm saying that if we try to put that on our world, like it just shows how much bigger than our world the mortal realms are.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Because like there's still like Shamon still exists, right? Like that area of Shamon is much different now, right? But like Shamon itself still exists. Okay.
Yep. So it spreads. Yes. And then what we learn as we transition away from this narrative is that actually all this is according to plan. Because it indeed has been foreseen, and now we've learned that it's been foreorchestrated. Mm-hmm. Is that Belakor is puppet mastering the whole situation, and now he fed the information to Croak that led him to learn about the pinpoint the thing, to blow up the tower, to set off the nuclear explosion, because he wanted the chain reaction cloud. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately he had his sights set on, he's trying to like earn his way back up in chaos and prove himself like a big boy, like he always does. And so he had his eye set on a city, one of the first of the cities of Sigmar, Vindicarum, home of the Celestial Vindicators. And so he's gonna take this city out, and it's gonna be like a symbolic victory, not unlike what Teclis was doing back in Battle Tome Teclis, where he's like, I'm gonna punch him and it'll show that I'm awesome.
Yes.
And that they're not so awesome. Well, he's gonna do the same. And so he also, the last time we'd seen Belakor, he had a curse put on him by Lady O.
Yes.
And so this is where Nighthaunt come in, where he's like, you know what, I need to go pay her a visit. So he takes some demons and invades Lady O's like home, and she's like, oh, we're winning, ha ha ha, wait a minute, it's a distraction, oh no, and runs down to the crypt, and sure enough, Belakor is down there with her remains, which is all kinds of creep. And then he takes
Bellacor's a creeper in this book, dude. That's not cool.
Yeah, and he pokes her in the face with the sword.
Yeah, he's like, hey, he's poking at her remains like a real creeper.
Yeah, and she's like, don't you dare, blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, I'm not here to kill you. Maybe we can work out a deal. And so basically they cut a deal, and they agree to a truce, and they agree to work together. Dun dun dun. Because what he's orchestrated with the Stormcast will allow her and thus Nagash to reclaim all those Stormcast souls that were robbed. So let's work together temporarily. And so they dramatic overacting, yada yada.
Sure. She puts a little spectral hourglass over his head and is like, very well, we have an alliance until the sand runs down. And okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, great. That's what I was looking for. So you're going to help me out? And she's like, yeah, I'm in. Okay, great. Let's be friends now.
Yeah. Okay, we punched.
It's like a very Fast and the Furious type of move.
Yes. We punched a bit, and now we're mates.
Now we're mates, yes.
And so they go off to Vindicarum, a joint Chaos Demons and Ghosty Boys army. So in the meantime, Vandus has returned. Not Vandus, sorry.
Gardus.
Gardus has returned. He's like, hey, friends.
Yeah.
There's this thing happening. And because he's all butthurt because he doesn't understand why the Seraphon betrayed them. And so he's praying, and then Croak answers his prayer because of reasons, and reveals to him the Grand Master plan, and that there's more at work with this Vindicarum. And so he's like, I'm gonna go save the day. And so he takes some Hollow Knights and goes to Vindicarum, and he's like, hey everybody, you're about to die. And the Celestial Vindicators are like, no, we're fine. And then the bad guys show up and they're not fine.
Yes.
And this,
a very long battle in Act 3 commences, which could be to your taste or not. It's one of those classic give and sort of take battles where different things happen. Yep. This could be subtitled Broken Realms Belakor, we like big booms and we cannot lie, because there is a lot of big explosions in here. Yep. One of the key moments that happens in the Siege of Vindicarum is this is where what's his name? He has a name, Altazar or whatever. The named herald on Burning Chariot guy. This is where he kind of shows up, and he orders a bunch of his flamey demons to go target the powder kegs instead of the the powder store instead of the actual guns. Yes. And so he blows the powder kegs and causes a massive explosion that then blows the hole out of the wall in this caldera type of fortification that the Vindicators have, and sort of creates an opening right where his forces can pile in. So it creates this big explosion. It kills one of the named Lord Castellans, I think, that we had seen earlier. Loris Krim. Yeah, that's who it was. He gets exploded and is not going home because of Cloud. Now, we should mention that at the same time this battle is happening, it's not all just this battle. There is another sort of thing happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing happening is the KO are all meeting.
Right?
So there's this big meeting of the KO, and they're all like, okay, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna help?
Are you saying Loris Grimm?
Is that what I'm saying? Is that his name? Sure. Yes.
I thought no. So he dies at Bellacor's hands. If that's who I'm thinking of.
Well, one of them dies in the explosion. There's a Castellan whose name that dies in
Okay.
the explosion. They could have very close names. Anyways,
so
talk about the KO thing because that's relevant, obviously.
Okay, I was actually really heartbroken about Loris. Spoiler alert. Loris, who's like one of the Hallowed Knights heroes from like the Hallowed Knights books and everything. Like when Gardas gets sucked away, like right, like the main narrative in the Alariel storyline follows Loris. Like he's a Castellan that like the weight of leadership falls upon him, and you follow him. Well, he kind of like dies off screen here because like Gardas is fighting, and then like Belakor enters. You know, they're like Belakor. They're chanting Belakor, and he shows up and like kills like Loris, like in hand, like stabs him with the Sword of Shadows. So it was a very traumatic for me storyline because I'm like, I know that guy. Like the only guy I know in lore is dead now. Why'd you do that? Okay. Anyways, moving on. So what's happening with the KO is that they're having the second great council of whatever. Like the first one, they made their laws, and now they've reconvened, and they're basically like, this is an extinction level event. The way that things are progressing. So we need to unify, and we need to step up and play Thunderstruck on the loudspeakers and airdrop in like Battlestar Galactica. That's the plan here.
And so they're all arguing, like the KO heads. There's sort of we kind of got introduced to this character we didn't mention earlier.
Yep.
But it's worth mentioning here is that we meet this new little Arcanaut named Gromthy. Okay.
Yep.
And you know, he seems very wise and is like clearly, even though he's just a regular Arcanaut,
a long beard.
He seems very like wise beyond his years, right?
Yep.
And he's hooked up with this Endrin master named Humboldtson. And as the meeting is basically progressing nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. Endrin Master Humboldtson and this and Gromthy, this Arcanaut, right, come in. And he comes in, which is a breach of the code, right? Because it's supposed to be the admirals.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy, this little Arco, Gromthy, who's very old, he like raises up his hand and everybody quiets down. He has this like air of authority, right?
Right.
And he basically renders everybody silent, and then he brings with him sort of these latest aeronautical readings, which I love. I love the concept of it. It's so funny, like the sort of new interpretations of the code, right?
Right.
And of the latest readings of where the Aether Gold is and stuff like that. And this comes from Baraknar. And basically what they say is, okay, there's this big he's like, look, there's this big convergence, and all of this Aether Gold, because the nature of the convergence of energies over Vindicarum, this is going to be the greatest haul of potential Aether Gold we could ever have.
Yep.
Right? And so when everybody hears that this is going to be like the richest prize, because one of their sayings is like, in conflict lies bounty or something like that. Yeah, something like that. And so he basically, everybody's like, oh wait, hold on, we can get super rich off of this? Okay, never mind. What are we doing here? Let's get in our boats and go, right? And so who brings this to emotion, because you got to have an admiral bring this up, is our friend Admiral Imoda, who we had seen in the previous story, right? So she was the one who got her eye cut out, basically, and she had her, aged beyond her years. She had a rough go of it, and so and so there you go. And they're like, okay, he kind of leaves on a little bit of like a we're not sure, but whether or not if the motion's going to pass. So there you go. Okay, so that's kind of happening at the same time, right, as this lengthy siege.
Yep.
So okay, back to you, Tom. Keep going.
So then Gardas gets in a punch up with Belakor and is basically losing. It's the best way to describe it. Like, not surprising, you've seen his war scroll. He's punching like 100-point hero. And basically, when all is lost and like the Celestial Vindigators have been like almost wiped out to a man, sorry, Martin, the KO shows up.
Yes.
And guns blazing, shooting out all the ships. Pow pow. Battlestar Galactica drops in the atmosphere, and the largest fleet of anything everywhere has ever been
when
seen.
You mentioned that scene.
Yeah,
That's like one of the greatest scenes in television history. All right, anyways.
Yeah, you did. And they arrive, and KO wins the day, and the rest of the story reads like a fanfic of like my armies in my basement.
Sure.
Because it's like slaves to darkness and KO and pow pow and then Stormcast and then they win and show up and okay. But more importantly, the one kind of interesting note is that Belakor is like attacking a ship and he's gonna like, like exact vengeance, and then like he's
attacking the Redoubtable, which is the ship we mentioned earlier that was the one that was like 6,000 leagues from the explosion. So yes.
Yep. And then he spots the grizzled Arco on the deck, that old figure, and he recognizes something about that individual. And he realizes it's time for him to remove himself from this fight. So he goes home and returns to his throne. He withdraws his forces, and he just leaves.
Yep.
We are led to believe later that this figure is probably Grungy himself.
Yes.
Or possibly the White Dwarf, but most likely Grungy. So, which would imply that Grungy himself is back involved and is bringing his children back together. We've seen that in one of the lore for the KO book. It pointed this direction as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so Belakor has to he sort of, I accomplished more than Archeon did ever, right?
Yep.
But he still is like smarting at the fact that he had to
withdraw.
Yeah. Yep. And there's it ends with sort of, I don't want to ruin this part, but it does end with a nice little scene of Gromthy. Like it kind of focuses in on one of those narrative scenes with him.
Yep.
And so, I would recommend if you get the book to read that. It is pretty interesting stuff. So. Yep.
Like I said, it's either Grungy or the White Dwarf, because we saw like some pointing towards Grungy's re-involvement with his children. I'm like the narrative seems to be pointing that way. So it's interesting that he's gathering seemingly the KO first, given that those are the ones that have kind of strayed the farthest from the old ways. And like Forsaken, like one of their abilities is trust Aethermatics, not faith or whatever. And so, or trust Aethermatics, not superstition. And so, a lot of the KO story is turning their backs on the old gods. And so it'll be interesting to see the trajectory of the story from here on out. Like, Barak Thringi is significant because it has not turned its way on the old ways. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Yep. And yeah, so that's it. It basically ends with like Belakor partially achieving his goals. And there's a nice little kind of re-confrontation with him and Lady O in the middle of the fight there too, but it's whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the answer is, I think that yes. I think this points to the United Dwarf subfaction, not likely in Broken Realms, but I think probably early to mid AOS 3. That's what I'm hoping, at least. And that'll probably be the fix to the Fyreslayers, by the way, not new units.
Yep. So to me, again, we've talked before in these stories how the most interesting parts of them are sort of the heraldings of the future instead of the story itself, right? And Gromthy is really interesting. He does show up several times in the story. He's pretty cool. I do like some of the confrontational scenes with Lady O and Belakor. It is a bit melodramatic, but it's It's still interesting. There were some brutal deaths in here, especially of like Stormcast when they now that the ones who are dying there can't reforge. And I'll be honest with you, I don't love where that's going. Right? Like, I don't want Stormcast to lose the ability to reforge. Now
it's a dark path we're on.
Yeah. Now there are interesting places you could go with that, right? That's a great threat, right? And if it's built on that, what eventually happens is, they, like, because we've got Grungy, who was one of the original builders of the Anvil of Apotheosis, right?
Yep.
Sort of back in the mix. So if you have some kind of world where Stormcast, where like, I could imagine some world where Stormcast get forged in a different way, right? Where they have to
right, like together. They don't automatically, like, I could imagine a world where they don't automatically return to Aesir, but rather their souls have to be gathered up and recovered.
Sure, or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Because we see the Nighthaunt gathering souls.
Sure. Yep.
So I could see, like, basically, like, now you have the Sacrosanct Chamber actually having a function out on the battlefield, which is gathering souls with their little lanterns.
Yep. I mean, it's exactly what the Lord Exorcist is doing in the book. He literally, when the souls can't get out of the... Because they can't escape the room that they're in, because it's like this Nagash soul trapping room. He literally just like holds up his staff, and the souls just calm down and like naturally float into the staff and are kept safe right in there.
Right.
So, like, I don't want to see Stormcast just be like, oh, they're not immortal anymore. That's it, I guess. Okay. Like, cool. That's like, I love that they like their story as it is really cool and good and interesting, that they have to like go and they get reforged and it's painful, and you know they can lose parts of themselves in various and interesting ways and develop into, you know, these kinds of things. So I am interested to see where this goes, to where that happens, but I do want to see Stormcast remain around and remain themselves. I would love it if they got reforged, and if they use this as an excuse to like, oh, we have to the Stormcast need to be more durable, tougher, or something like that, or more scary, or more powerful, or whatever, you know what I mean? And we like that's kind of the logistical reason for their new book coming in, right? And there's something that's kind of fundamentally different about how they operate or whatever.
Well, I could see them going narratively with a like, hey, now we need to like save the souls. Right? Yeah, sure. Like the souls that have been lost, they need to be gathered. And so let's unlock the Crusader Chamber.
Sure.
Or the
Which is what's happening
chamber.
In that short story that went out today. Yes, exactly that.
Right. Like we need the cavalry to come save our disembodied brethren.
Right.
And so roll out the Bretonnian Knights.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep. Yeah, so I will say, of all this, I am very, very, very interested to see where we end up going with Stormcast, given this. Because, I mean, this was a hard book for them. They took some hard L's over and over and over again. Okay?
Yep.
You know, this is the opposite of Lumineth.
Sure.
The Lumineth, they're tired of winning. It's too much winning.
Yeah.
Okay? But these guys, like the Stormcast, just get beat and beat and beat in this book. Badly. We lose, like, named heroes. We lose a lot of Stormcast who can't reforge. Like, it was significant. Vindicarum is ruined, right?
Yes.
It didn't fall, but it's not a great city.
Most of the Celestial Vindicators are gone.
Yeah.
Like, most of that chamber done.
Yep. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Hey, at least Martin, you have your historical army.
Celestial Vindicators, the Anvil Guard of Stormcast. Yes, indeed. Okay, so there you go.
That's the story.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good.
Overall,
I look forward to Kragnos.
Yes.
It's coming probably in a month, I'm guessing.
Sure.
Do you think we'll have 2 more books?
I think there'll be one more before AOS 3. And then they'll probably just continue it after AOS 3 to set up the rolling plot of the next. Like, there'll be a break point. Kragnos will break for AOS 3. AOS 3 will then herald, and they'll use maybe another Broken Realm book or 2 to set up, like, what's happening now that this change has occurred. Right? To establish a new threat.
So you actually think that that Broken Realms will go into AOS, like, on the other side of AOS 3?
Yeah, maybe. Why not?
I don't think so. I think we're going to get Kragnos mid-May.
Okay.
We'll have a 2 to 3 week break, and then we'll get hit again with the final Broken Realms book. And then I think that we'll have a month break approximately, and we'll jump right into AOS 3 in first week of July.
Okay. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's very much like a Varys, where are my legions, or whatever type of moment there in the end, right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, good. There we go. I think this book is, story-wise, is actually I would place it, second so far? Like, it goes Morathi, Belakor, Teclis for the value of the narrative. Does that sound right?
Agreed. Like, Teclis, like, yeah, I would agree. Belakor it's tight.
This was better than Teclis, not quite as good as Morathi, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, that's my ranking. There we go. All right, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, hey, give it a like. Giving it a like is so easy. It's just clicking a button, and it helps people find the show, and we really appreciate it. As always, we very much appreciate you watching. Don't forget to comment whether or not you think the Fyreslayers are good, the new Fyreslayer heroes, or are cool dudes. I think they're cool dudes. Tom is a hater. So, at any rate, don't forget that. We'll be back here, as always. We'll see you next Wednesday. Maybe sooner, depending on what they reveal on Monday. Bye, everybody.